So here we are today in conversation with a group of our local citizens who are experts in their field, and and I hear the chuckling already. They are experts in their field, and their field is log truck driving. Most of them have done that and other kinds of driving over the years, and I'm particularly interested because I know most of this group was born in this area, but I'm interested in hearing from Harold Holland. Harold, you came to this area. Could you tell us about when you came?
Yeah, I can go right back to day one. Actually, H. Siglet and Company, they started a little mill in the pole yard up here, and they were a large contractor in the Lumbee country, and my dad had worked for them for a number of years until I had to go to school. And at that point, I couldn't go to school from the logging camps, so they bought a little farm, and then I was 2 miles from school, so I could walk or ride a horse. In 1952, Siglet came out to see my dad. He had started a logging camp up here, and he had a little bit of a sawmill in Golden. He had the pole yard in Ford. Right now the CPR cuts through the old Ford pole yard. But anyway, Siglet had brought in a bunch of people from Germany. They called them displaced people. And of course they didn't speak English. My dad was fluent in German. So Siglet came out to see my dad if he'd come up here and run that camp for him. And reluctantly he agreed to come for a month. But anyway, a month ended up being yearly retired. So that's what brought us to Golden. It was about 8 years later, I guess they actually moved here. When Dad came up here, he was in camp out at Boulder Creek, Sullivan, Cummins Creek, so there's no point moving here, he wasn't home anyway. And I came up 2 summers out of high school, like when I was grade 10, grade 11, and I know the one year the market must have been bad or something, but they had decked a bunch of poles. And John Boltakis was one of the guys hauling here. I don't know if there's another truck or not, but it took my dad and I plus John to load the trucks because we used a jammer and A-frame. My dad drove an old bun wagon and I hooked tongs in these poles. And John would haul 1 load a day from, some of the poles were this side of Boulder Creek to Ford. It was an all-day adventure. Some of them came from, they brought them across the lake, Kinbasket Lake, which would be an adventure in itself. They had a wood boat built out of lumber. They had a 5-horse outboard motor, and they would drag these poles across the lake, 3, 4, 5 poles at a time, whatever they could pull. And they had to be sure they stayed away from the end of the outlet, end of the lake, or the current would take them down. But John, he was here with a super white, I believe it was, tandem truck, tandem trailer. Pretty good truck in those days, I guess, 6-cylinder gas. And I don't know if it would go 50 miles an hour, probably wouldn't. But they used to load them right full, just like they would today. And it took forever to go anyplace, because low gear is probably the only thing you used. The next year when I was up here, things were picking up again, and I ended up swamping. Siglet had 1 cat here, a little HD5, which would be comparable, I don't know, to a DC3 or 4 or something like that. And they skidded with horses to these main trails. And I was there swamping trails for these, along with many, many others, because it was quite labor intensive. And
what year would that have been, Carol?
that would have been, I'd have been here in 56 and 57 those summers. In 58 I came here out of high school and I stayed here. And things were really starting to move then in 58. That's about the time when Kickenhorse started, they came here I think in 1960. Siglet had really increased his production here, his pole production. When my dad first came up here, they had a camp in Boulder Creek, if you can believe this. There was, my dad, he was in camp with the guys, and Ewald Hoppy was the other foreman there. But he ran an old snowmobile every day from Donald to camp. There was 6-cylinder gas engine, two tracks, I believe, couple skis in front, a plywood thing built over it. There was room for probably 6 guys and 2 people in front. And he had to keep this road open because they didn't plow it. There's no communication with camp. If someone got hurt up there, you're on your own. If he broke down on the road, all he had was snowshoes. And that's the way they lived. They didn't know any better. And those camps, they were tar paper shacks. I mean, you got up in the morning, the water was frozen in your bucket. And they drug these things from one camp setting to the next. They were on two logs. They're probably, I don't know, 10 feet wide, 20 feet long.
Built out of snow beds.
Yeah. They were terrible things. But the first trucks that I remember out there in those days, Lauren Miller was one of the guys that he had a single axle Dodge or Fargo V8. This was really something. I was got a V8. But they didn't use tail lights and anything, Chris. You should have been around in those days. They didn't need them. all they would do was put a flag on the back of their load. That was it for tail lights. And
That'd be nice.
I remember
Oh,
when
that'd be
they
so nice.
first said they had to have a tail light in the back of their trailers, and what a hullabaloo. You know, they just didn't see why we need to have a tail light. And back, his old trailer, they had vacuum brakes. Brake pots about yay big, because what would you get, maybe 10 or 15 pounds of vacuum out of an engine? And that's...
With no leaks.
Yeah, well, they leaked. And most of them were, well, there was a very odd V8, most of them were 6-cylinder flathead Chryslers, like 100 horsepower.
How long before you saw a diesel engine out there?
There was, the first one I seen was a 150 horse Cummins, and of course, they were no good for nothing. They didn't like them at all. Bert was probably one of the ones that didn't like them, but they were saying they didn't hold back. The gas engines would hold back more going downhill.
Do you remember who brought it?
Higby was one of the first ones. He had the...
And I think Chick Henderson drove it.
No, Chick drove gas. And I drove the same thing. Chick and I, when we hauled together there from bottom of Dundas, we had 3 sets of chains between us. One set we left on all the time into Donald, and the other set drop it at the top of this. We could make the blue water with one set, but we couldn't make the Dundas, eh? So I'd go down the road, come up, drop the chain, just leave it laying there. Chick could come along, put them on, and he could down the road. That's the way we worked it. But Jay Boy drove the diesel.
Chick did tell me that he drove a diesel for them later. But he also said that he hauled out of Boulder Creek. I thought it was one of Higby's trucks. And they'd only get a couple loads a week from there in those days, because the road wasn't plowed. Like, there was a snowblower, single lane, and when you met, the empty guy would back up, take around a snowbank, and so they'd get by, and then load a guy pulling back on the road. But one story I remember about Junior, and the reason Junior ended up in Golden is because of Siglet. You can thank them for that. Because Siglet imported a bunch of his Lumbee people this way, but he backed their way up and took a good run at her, and it took him 2 days to get him back on the road. But
he always did believe if you were going to do something, you may as well do it right.
yeah,
That's right.
Somebody told us a long time ago, though, that the first diesel engine that ever appeared out here was a guy from Parson. He said it was McKeeman, maybe? Was the first diesel
don't
engine, you
recall
guys?
that. The first one that was ever came and stayed was Voltakis.
Yeah, Baltakis was the first.
He
First
bought
one, yeah.
a 220 Kenworth. It was the first Kenworth we've seen here too.
Andy Berrigan come in the same time with the Mac and a Kenworth. Corey Becker got in the
then
Kenworth.
Yeah.
I drove the Mac.
Magnus came here with some Rolls Royce
Yeah,
at the same time.
Uh,
Or corn binders with Rolls
Corn
Royce.
binders with Rolls Royce in them.
Oh, wow.
Ozark.
What that was the old guy's name that drove the. He couldn't stand the smoke. He was always putting manifold gaskets in.
Jim Unger
Jim Unger, yeah.
is the cop killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, all I'll take that truck back where you got it from, Sumner, and I'll drive her through the doors of the shop. And then I'll say good morning, and then I'll say, fix your doors, and then fix that effing truck.
Your dad must have been close to them too, Dale?
I know you work for Magna.
Yeah, old,
Yeah, I did.
yeah,
Is that where he started?
Actually,
old Leadfoot.
Leadfoot,
the
yeah.
very, very
Is that what
first
they call
load,
Larry?
Yeah.
Leadfoot?
Yeah,
Leadfoot.
Leadfoot.
the very, very first load that went into the Boulder Creek Mill, I loaded on Larry with lumber forks on an HD6 track loader. Larry was driving a single axle, it was yellow, corn binder with a tandem trailer.
That was Evan, or kicking, or what was it called then? Selkirk Spruce or something, I forget.
No, this was into the, when they did the mill in Boulder Creek.
Oh, out there?
Yeah, that's the very first load that went in there, Larry hauled it. I loaded on, and then we went down there, and we had a cat in the yard, and I pushed it off with the cat. But another story about Larry, same truck, he's loaded out there, and if you know today, when you come out of Mountain Minerals, there's that little hump up onto the Transcanada. Well, that little piece of road there, going past Benson's and up past Mountain Minerals, that's the old Transcanada Highway. And that little hump on across the railroad tracks, that's how the highway used to be. Well, you can be sure Leadfoot didn't spare the horses all the way from Donald or from wherever he was. He spun out on that hill and slid backwards down onto the railroad tracks, so you can imagine how fast you could get going with these old 6-cylinder engines, the gas engines.
It was an old KB11 with a
Yeah,
tandem trailer.
KB11, yeah.
Yeah, and a single axle. He used to come, we used to haul lumber from Bolton Camp with him together. He never looked back, because we had pup trailers.
Yeah, well, you didn't dare look back.
No, he didn't dare look back, it'd scare you to death. So he'd go always and he'd stop and get out and tighten up. And if the bundle was this way, he'd just hit a bump on that side, and then he'd get out and tighten it up again.
But you know, he hauled 3 loads a day lots of times from Boulder Creek
Yeah.
and lumber.
And never wear gloves, 50 below zero, and he'd be out there in bare hands.
Yeah, those pup trailers, they were single axle and single axle.
Yeah,
And
And the load,
you
and they were
spin out,
just,
back up, and jackknife, and as soon as that front axle got in under the trailer like that, it would fall
trailer,
over.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's lumber spread all the way through the Bolton Camp.
Yeah.
the Lions Club, they had a full-time job. They
Pick 'em
picked it
up.
all up and Magnus paid them for it. That was their fundraiser, picking up lumber for Magnus.
Well, he had to be a Leadfoot. I used to haul lumber from there too, with a B61, brand new, all day to make one trip.
Yeah, no.
Bill, what about you? You came into the valley,
1956.
okay.
I came up with Higby Brothers. Like my dad was a subcontractor for Higby Brothers. They had a contract with Selkirk Spruce, and Dad subcontracted for them. He's got a picture of his old original cat right here.
Little Jewel.
Yeah, the old Jewel,
Yep.
How old were you when you started driving?
16.
16.
Dad bought a brand new V-liner, International in '59, and it was in the spring, so it was parked in the yard, so every time everybody disappeared, I'd fire it up and run it around the field trying to figure out how to shift gears, eh? And I'd put it right back where it was, but I didn't realize that it was grass out there and tracks all over the field. So he finally got Jack Leslie to show me how to drive the damn thing. I was driving it anyways.
So Jack taught you?
Jack Leslie taught me to drive, yeah.
Oh, cool.
Well, he drove truck with my dad at that time.
Okay.
And then he quit driving logging truck and he bought a milk route. He ran milk from Cranbrook to Golden. And then he blew the motor out of that truck, so he come and refined my teaching, and I started driving steady then.
One thing I remember about Jack Leslie, he said he was going up to Moran, and a tourist came walking up beside him and asked if he'd go by, and they got to the top.
Well, you're right down to first and second, first and third, we're going
And Chris,
Yeah,
you weren't born here either.
No, I was not.
How did you get into the valley?
Well, I came here with my folks in '67 and went to work driving a truck for Cecil Ridge in '71, I think it was. Must have been about that, but somewhere around there.
Who'd you ride with? Or did you just jump in and go?
Well, I rode around with Gordy Bedker for quite a while, and eventually wound up working for him for quite a few years.
It was you and Kenny Williams and who with Becker at the time? I remember stories.
Les?
There's a couple of stories.
Les McCrae,
Les was in it when the air tank blew.
Gary
Yeah.
Dredge. Oh, shucks. Who else was there at the time? I can't
Bill
remember.
drove for Medgar quite a while.
What
Bill,
about Kent's dad, old Jungle Jim?
Old Jungle
Oh,
Jim.
he had his own truck.
Bill,
Yeah. That is
And-
something. Yeah.
Oh, Huxelmeyer.
no. He's still around. Bladen, who's,
Oh, Bill Giant.
Machai, yeah, you drove for him for quite a while.
Yeah. Oh, Andy Verrigan was Bill's cousin. He brought the first 2 trucks up. Bill come up here, he went to work for my dad driving that thing. Dad taught him how to run cat.
We tested
That the cab
Bedker's.
there was no levers for you on?
Yeah, lever, though that was a loader. Only one lever on that loader for you, and that's lever alone.
When I first started driving truck, it was for Magnus, we were up to 200 horsepower at that time. And from Bush River Bridge to top of Dundas took an hour.
That's the old Bush River Bridge
Yeah,
by the harbor there.
yeah. Well, that was level ground there for a
Yeah, all
ways.
flat there. Mosquito
You're
flat.
talking about hauling them poles in. The old Blue Water Bridge was a double Bailey bridge, eh? And you had to hit it just right or your pole would hang up on the bank. And you couldn't go ahead and you couldn't back up. So I, 2 nice big 120-foot poles on top, and I couldn't go anyplace, so I got out there and I actually chopped in the pole off. And I could get on the bridge. I got fired for that for some reason. They were $120 a lineal foot or something. And I got about 20 feet off the end there.
2 months
Go ahead,
wages.
rather than tell them about when you did first start driving from Magnus.
I remember being in that muddy ditch.
Yeah. That's the time I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Is Bert the
Yeah,
only
but-
one here that would remember that?
yeah, but I remember Bert's saying to the young fella, it's gonna be a long year for you.
I met him,
With you and Vern,
Yeah.
Magoon.
No, you think back though, we used to haul 5 axles, of course, but we put more wood on than they do now, just heap
Well,
about the size you
high,
could
but
get.
not long.
Yeah, not long, but we didn't have a power divider, we didn't have none of that stuff, Jake brakes, none of that, we hauled all that one.
No,
I mean, the old Morrow Creek Bridge there, you used to come down, then it flattened out for the bridge. If you didn't slow down, you'd hit that bump and there'd go the U-bolts on your springs, so then you were in Cumberland's just getting new U-bolts put in.
well, the first logging trucks I remember out here now, they didn't have much for steaks or cheaters, and
that's right, he's got
They-
wrappers.
they'd have birch extensions. Get a nice chunk of birch for an extension, and they had these things they called dogs. They, well, it might have been a metal piece yay long, I guess.
Yeah.
You'd hammer in
Yeah.
a piece of chain to another dog. You'd dog the center of the load someplace, a log that couldn't roll off, and you know, because all you got is a piece of birch for a stake. So this is a
Precautionary.
yeah. So you dog all these logs on the side.
And then we used to put a gut wrapper on them too.
Yeah, this has got.
I'd like to take an old truck like that and run it through a DOT inspection out there in Donald.
They've done it this way for years, yeah.
You want a grandfather, it was legal then. Yeah,
Can you imagine their eyes bug out of their head?
As the old Sam and Clarence Plumbo's old Mac came.
Holy lightning.
If you ever got stuck behind Clarence down at Radium, you'd appreciate that, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Loading his trailer. Dale and I, one time, we were BSing and it took Clarence, no word of a lie, 35 minutes to load his trailer.
Well, he'd stop and talk to everybody and still getting it
He
done
just had a
too.
chat going, and when the dog got out, he had to let it do its business.
And he still
put
had
the
the
dog
old-
back in, and
Still had the old cheater extensions you had to carry on your shoulder.
you carry him along the reach. And when the safety guy came by and told him that he couldn't do it, he said, "You can't change the rules halfway through the game." Throw him in the train, walk the reach back, and he was already well into his 60s by then, eh?
One year he pulled down there, he didn't have a seat for some reason, it was just an old box sitting in there, and no heater, great big old park on underneath mitts.
Scrape the glass.
And his big dog on the passenger side, just sitting right up.
The good old days.
Oh, man.
Well, that old Big Bend Highway in those days, all those wood culverts were collapsing from when it was built. And it'd be these humongous holes. Now, you're driving this thing with 100 horsepower flat out. See one of these holes, you never slowed up.
No.
You're probably going 10
That's
or
what
15
Dad
miles an
said.
hour. You should grab the steering wheel and
Yeah.
stand up like this. Is
Just so your back didn't get the impact, know where you go.
that right, Bert?
That's about the way they were. all right.
Yeah.
Then along by the fourth lake there, the road tipped away from it.
Now you put the front wheel in the ditch,
Yeah, yeah.
keep the trailer out of the,
Just keep it out of there. We dumped a whole bunch of green hemlock in there, all along there. That's why those trees are,
Yeah.
dumped them down against the trees and then the trees pushed over. That's why there's still trees sticking out.
That's still what's holding the road up there
Yeah,
too.
and then they put gravel over top of it, and on top of the logs, see? And it stood up ever since. That hemlock's probably still greener than that.
Yeah. It's still good.
It's still in there, that's all that's holding that road up there.
Yeah.
Bert, you would be the most senior of these fellows around the table today. Can you tell us what year you started driving and how old you were when you started?
I started when I was, well, actually, I don't know, I was probably about 12, I guess, when I started, but I was 13 when I got my license. Had to jack my age ahead a year, because you couldn't get a license till you're 14. Tom Alton owned a mill at Person, and his driver broke a leg. And, he told my dad, he said, I gotta have Bert come and drive a logging truck for us. Dad says he hasn't got a license, but I'd been hauling tie logs with my dad's old 1934 Ford. It was only 133-inch wheelbase, and he had a 12-foot deck on it. And we rolled the logs up on it by hand, but you had to be careful how you loaded it. You know, get enough weight ahead of it. You let the clutch open.
Stand up.
unload it right there.
That's right. Over there, about the same spot.
A 4-speed transmission. She had a V8 in her, I think, what were they?
Flathead Ford.
No, yeah, flathead Ford, the V8, 65 horse or something.
Yeah, 65 or 85.
Anyway, that's what I started on, pulling out of Beers Creek, up on the second bench there, mechanical brakes, which meant there wasn't any. And then I went on Tom Alton's. That was 1940, 1946 GMC. She was a big truck, single axle. We loaded by hand, rolled the logs up on it. That's when I went from 8-foot logs to 16-foot logs. And then got my, well, when I took my road test in town, I was 13, and old Bill Craig was the call. And, yeah, so he said, no, you can go haul logs legal. So that's when I started.
Even when I started, you had to be 19 or 20
Yeah.
to drive for somebody else.
Yeah.
But if the truck was in your name, you could drive as 15 or whatever. So that's why I always say my first truck was the
14.
V-Liner, because Dad put it in my name so I could drive the damn thing. I drove that truck for 3 or 4 years before I was old enough to get compensation coverage, whatever it was.
I bought my first truck when I was 14. All ties and everything all over the country. All the lumber to Calgary, or McLeod. That was when the field hill had 2 switchbacks on it. Climbing it. You had to go through Cochrane and up the Cochrane. Took 8 hours to get to Calgary.
A couple trips a week,
Eh?
couple trips a week.
Yeah,
Do you remember what you paid for your first truck, Bert?
no, I don't. It couldn't have been very much because I didn't have any money.
That old,
But it was
that old
okay.
V-liner Dad bought brand new in '59, fully rigged, was under $40,000. It's 38,000 and change, eh?
Yeah, well, then, what was it, 72, bought those two new Macs. And Columbia rigging.
Yeah.
52,000.
Couldn't you buy a trailer for that nowadays?
No.
Go back some of the first winters, I guess, that I was in Boulder Creek, and they were logging, they wouldn't get 5 loads a week, the guys. And right shortly after that, they started snow plowing, the road was kept decent, and then they started running trip and a half, 2 trips a day, but before that, when there was basically a single lane road, if someone broke down the middle of the road, you were there fixing with him to get him out of the way, and they used to pack shovels, because if the hill wasn't plowed and they couldn't get up, you wouldn't shoveled it. And they might get 2-3 loads a week, that's all they got.
I spent a night at Surprise Rapids there, and it used to, this time of year, the sun would shine on them, and the slides would come down.
Yeah.
Come to one, it wasn't too bad, so I got through that, and there's another one. Can't back up, can't go ahead, and it was too much to shovel, no radios, no nothing, so somebody will come looking for me eventually, so.
Well, in the early days, well, back in those days, Eckhart Jesse, Norm Jesse's dad, and we ran cats from Boulder Creek out to Straits Fest because we were snowed in. Snow plows weren't coming in, so where are they? I mean, the snow was getting deeper and deeper, so finally we took 2 cats from camp and got up this end until we met up with them. But going back to camp, Ross Magnus was hauling lumber from Scott's. He had a mill at Cummins Creek, probably where I never was at Czar Creek Camp, but I imagine it was in the same spot. And he had a single axle with a tag axle, body job, and he got into Windy Point, into slides. And there, we're coming back about 2-3 in the morning, and here's this truck stuck in the middle of the road. So, get out and walk to camp, middle of the night.
Well, one time, Vern and I, we left Sunday afternoon, or Sunday noon about, go up to Wood River to grab a preload there. We got back on a Thursday afternoon.
So you always took a big gun.
Run out of lunch, run out of field, you name it. Yeah, we just decided, a little bit decided of Bolton Captain there, Vern was ahead. And I was kind of, down come a snow sliding, and there was the back of his load stuck out, you know. But Vern, you all right? Yeah, he said, I'm out the other end of it. Naturally couldn't move, but then they brought the cat and the grader from up Wood River, that's where we got it, and got us going. And we kept changing fuel around, everything till we got to Boulder. We shut down the Boulder camp, but there was a tank of fuel there, and we got into that, and we fueled up again and took off again, and then we got down to we were down to about the last 3 gallons of fuel. We put that in Vern's truck, he had the biggest cab, and we waited for the company to come out from this end. Plowed out to come and get us. It was, yeah, all week, from Sunday to Thursday afternoon.
All for $400 a month if you were lucky.
Yeah.
And Wood River was how far from the Bowden Catman Road, as the road is?
Oh, it's quite a little
Quite
ways
ways.
up Wood River, up the Wood River Valley.
Right across from, well, not far from the dam, actually.
Because I know I was at Bowden Catman with Dad, used to go for rides with him in the truck. But I know, we never did go up to Wood River.
Yeah.
And flat tires in those days, everybody packed repair kits.
Yeah.
Well, everybody had glass supply tires with tubes.
I remember the one time it was a Friday night after work kind of job, went out. I think we're picking up oversized on a mill that was out there. When I got back into town, I had too many flat tires in my trailer to load it. There was 4, 1 in each corner. So I left it on the ground, went home, went to bed, and the next morning I got up, there was another flat tire there. There was 5 flat tires on that trailer from hauling one load from Boulder Creek to Golden.
But most of the time when you blew a tire, it was just bang, bang.
Yeah, the second
One
way
way
we
beside
said
it.
The other one wouldn't take it, well, we had about 5 times too much weight on it.
They paved that highway for Rogers Pass in 62, but it didn't open until
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah.
So we used to come off the old Big Ben onto the pavement there. I pulled down the pavement, same thing, bang, bang. So
Yeah.
I stopped and jacked it up, and Dad happened to come by, so we took the tires to town, we got more tires to come back. Here's the DOT and the cops and everybody else sitting there, because Jack only had a baseball like that, and they were sunk right down in that new pavement. They were sure as hell that I was overweight, because the boy was sinking that jack. And old Talarico, he was there.
Yeah,
Had to
yeah.
go all the way to town across the scales. Damn if I wasn't legal in weight, I was just barely, but I was legal, I was way over height. The old man kept saying, get out of here, get out of here. Before they start realizing you're over height and over length.
Yeah, like, when, Siglet first started, there was a kicking horse, right? When Magnus started, I went to work for them. And hauling off the straight stretch here, 4 loads a day. Go up real early in the morning, hauling from old Jim Reader.
$10
Yeah,
a trip.
$10 a trip. I was making $40 a day. Most of the guys in town were lucky to make $15 a day, and I was making 40.
Doing pretty good, eh?
Yeah,
I was hauling off the Blackwater Ridge at the
Yeah.
same time.
yeah,
3 trips a day into Donald, that was a long day. $10 a trip, and then every month you put new tires on it, or new,
Yeah.
not new tires, new brakes.
yeah,
We'd
yeah.
run water on the trailer and
Yeah.
just pull her down. No jakes or nothing, man.
No,
Breaks once a month.
Once a month, come down off that Blackwater, 3 trips a day. Run water on the trailer, just pull the valve down and let her smoke.
So what year did they get jake brakes in diesel engines?
Oh, 50, what, 6 or 7 in there someplace?
Later.
well, yeah, no, it's later than that, 'cause
Later
all we
than
had
that.
was exhaust brakes.
Yeah, that's right.
Exhaust brakes.
And they were that great.
Oh, the exhaust brakes, you might even stick your tongue out the window and
Drag
just
Of course,
go.
you had it, like the Mac jake, you used to put your house in the held better.
It was about like.
You didn't have maxes or anything in those
Jump
days.
over the
Just,
tailpipe, that's about all that.
I can't
That
believe
was-
never when they come out.
Vacuum
with
brakes.
brake. I know we didn't have them on them off-highway trucks and Coziers.
No,
Well, Clarence has Jake's on his B61s. That was in 61, right? 62? The early ones? So Jake's were probably before that. So
I
60.
think that's just about when Jake's come out with.
Sometime
when the
back in
Macs
there,
come
yeah.
out with-
The Mac wasn't the first one.
No,
the first Jakes weren't that strong either.
No.
but they're a heck of a lot better than what we had.
So what about air brakes? Cause you guys talked about vacuum, so when did air?
Well,
Become-
that was, that one that I seen here, that was the
Comes with
tail end
diesel
of them.
trucks.
Right.
They were,
Once they got taillights, they had to have.
yeah, taillights and air brakes
Air
came
brakes
about
all
the same
came.
time.
Everybody here had either a Dodge, a Chevy, or an International. That was the top trucks, all gas. And when the diesel showed up, there was no more gas trucks and no more vacuum brakes, and like they were big trucks.
That was kind of the turning
Big
point.
improvement.
Oh, they were, yeah, they were. They were a heck
The
of a lot.
laws for air brakes, I think, were written in 1948.
We used to have self-loading trailers
Really,
too.
regulations
Yeah,
in
I remember
48 for
those.
air brakes, I never.
Paul Archbishop.
But there were air brakes.
Well, I
Yeah.
think the manufacturers were.
Yeah, we all had the self-load, and then they went to what
I
they
was
called the
doing
West
some
Coast,
research
and
into
that was the
the ticket I
stiff
got
reach, and they
one
were
time.
wood.
And
Finally,
I'm
they
pretty
went to
sure
steel.
They're actually talking about wood reaches.
the law,
There.
Just a light 1/8 inch
Yeah.
breach, that little pissy ass ultralight.
I never even dreamed of
Somebody
that.
broke one right at the bridge here, maybe.
Oh, I seen a picture and that stuff we were going through there.
my truck,
Was that yours?
Oh, here? There's one right here with a broken reach. No,
right on the
That's a
right on the
garage.
bridge when Gordon was driving.
Okay, we're gonna bring it back again.
We're kind of busy, if you don't
I
mind.
know, and it's wonderful, but but we do kind of have to get it back on track. We can only hear so much that's going on.
So everybody shut up except one person. is what
No,
you're saying.
no, you can definitely have a conversation, but if you could all stay on the same conversation,
Oh,
that'd be kind
Gino and
of
Chris. Just saying.
You guys over there, just listen.
So I'd like to talk about some of the most memorable or most outrageous events that took place. Like, I know that there was, from something that I read, there was a truck driver who mowed down all the power lines between the Trans-Canada Highway and the mill. So if you could talk about that, maybe.
I think that's happened more than once,
Okay.
but I don't know who you're referring to though.
Bill Huxelmeyer,
That's the
actually.
one I know of. I know Huxley ripped them all down.
Yeah.
One of Henderson's trucks ripped them all down. That was
Yeah.
Neil Whitlam.
I don't know how many guys.
One of Barry's trucks did too, Dwayne Flipwich,
Who let the whip?
right by Dairy Queen.
got
Cheater
pulled
flipped
stakes
up,
down.
power lines come down.
Somebody drove a logging truck backwards for 21 miles on the Big Bend Highway.
Junior.
Oh, that'd be
Ron
Junior.
Junior,
How
yeah.
about that one?
Did it for charity though, right?
Huh?
Charity?
It started off just like
No,
a fun,
well, he
yeah.
did.
Started off just a junior.
He did it on account of his big mouth.
He probably started in the bar.
Yeah, it did. It started.
Oh, that's exactly
Well,
what
you
it said.
guys think you can drive truck, I can back up
More miles, yeah.
better than you guys could. Go ahead.
He said that to Robert,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
well, yeah, well, there was quite a bunch there. Yeah,
Get an audience.
I gave Colleen the story there, right up on it. I went out and loaded them, and Bush Harbor, he backed her all the way right into Donald. That was on the old Blue Water Hill too, and
Some say he took the reach off and changed it to the load.
for a little ways,
He did it.
but it didn't work.
It didn't, well, it wouldn't have made a
He
difference,
was-
yeah.
He had to throw the truck around too much to, so he
Let it go back on.
put it back on and,
He figured it would be faster, but it wasn't.
Talk about
But he still did it, he still did it in a good enough time, because I made a bet with Ricard and won. And the official time was what was in the newspaper at the
yeah,
time.
I
And
read
it was
my wife was taking, it was timekeeping.
3 hours and 59 minutes.
Yes, yeah.
He's got some other records. I think he dumped more loads around here than anyone
Oh, yeah,
else.
but he done it perfectly.
And when he upset that freight liner, he didn't even hurt it the first time he upset it.
No,
I was up home for season.
First
But he did
day.
it perfectly.
it causes,
I come along right after,
Oh, yeah.
when he upset it,
yeah.
I come along right behind him and he was sitting up on the bank crying.
Brand new truck.
Yeah,
First day.
Yeah. He was coming down off the falls, looking at all his fancy gauges.
But I don't think there was a doubt to his ability of driver though.
Oh, he could
Really?
drive.
Like he could drive. If he just focused a little more and left everyone else. I remember when I first started, it was always, Renee Gottler told me. He said, you'll never have an issue out there until you run into Junior. That was the truth.
When he first started, when I first met him, he was driving that old KB11 you're talking about, the mill out here owned it then. He was hauling for Dad out of Redburn, and we had a landing, was just about wide enough to park a truck on. No place to turn around. Didn't bother him, there was a steep trail come on the side. He'd hit it just as fast as that old corn binder would go, and then slam on the brakes and let the front end slide around and back up to the loader.
When they first started on his own, he had a V-liner, international V-liner.
Black.
White, yeah. No, it was, that one was red.
Oh, the next one was black.
Black and
Black and
oh,
white, the
black,
next one.
then the next one. You were talking about out at the camp away out there, disappeared on Cummins, eh? And the company had a camp there, your dad was running it. And John Baltakis was hauling there. And they had a deck for John, and then they had a deck for whoever. So John got the good logs. You know, well, anyway, I was heading up to Cummins there, and just come to the top of disappear, and I knew Junior was due. So I stopped there, have a coffee waiting. Pretty soon I see over the hill, I see a row of logs, and then another row of logs, and another row of logs, about 4 rows of logs, and here's Junior's old suspense he called the truck. Underneath there, she just crawling along, steam flying. Pulled up alongside me to stop and let the old girl cool down some. And what the devil are you trying to prove, Ron? He says, I got into John's deck.
Just through the pond though.
Talking about knocking things over the truck. I remember one night I come in from south with a load, had a flat tire, and it was just time for the tire shop to close. Geez, they were still open. I wheeled in there, just got in front of their window and the lights all went on. Them bastards, they seen me coming and they shut the lights off. I was a little over height. I took the power line off and I pulled it. And then, so now they got to do everything in the dark. They get me going. I pull out of there. I look down the road. There's nobody coming, so I just give her. They had oh, I don't know what they could call it, a frame there anyway that they pick stuff up with. Tail of my load hit that, knocked it over into their pickup, put a big dent in the side of the pickup. Got even with them.
So would Junior have been the most notorious truck driver in the?
Actually, Junior and
area?
Frank Reese had some great times.
Oh yeah, on the radio.
Yeah, oh yeah,
They were colorful.
yeah, very entertaining.
Best of friends when they
Junior
face to
definitely
face.
educated all the young guys that came along. Because he tuned every one of us up, I
Well,
guarantee.
he'd hide around the corner.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he'd turn around and if you said something about him not saying something on the radio and he surprised you or whatever, he'd just say, just stay on your own side of the road, kid, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
That was the end of that.
He used to
And he
pick
would
on
It
them.
took, yeah, I know, but it took like probably, I don't know, 15, 20 years. And I finally caught him in a chunk of road where there was no 2 lanes. But I was loaded, right? And I was sneaking along like a polecat and I knew he was coming. And I caught him in this narrow spot and he never hesitated for an instant. Blew off the road, up the bank, like high marking with a snow machine, back onto the road, gets on the radio and he says, "Are we even yet, kid?"
He used to pick on somebody though, every year, eh? There was somebody different, like Frank Priest one year, old Paul
Well,
Hart.
Frank, they got,
I remember we were hauling off back over here on the ridge just behind Nicholson, and it was this time of year, and in the morning it'd be ice, but in the afternoon it was mud, eh? He'd come down, he knew old Paul was coming. God, that was a ride. All the chains on, and I still couldn't keep the wheels going. So old Paul gets out and chains everything up, and there wasn't a speck of mud or dirt anywhere. It was a perfect road.
I always remember hauling out of Fish River. I was kind of looking after organizing who was coming. We were there with Albert Kostick, and Frank Priest was hauling with us. He was part of our regular group. And Junior calls up, "You guys got any extra wood over there?" "Oh yeah, we got lots." And the wheels are just a-turning. How do you get Frank and Ron in a situation that we can create a problem? So, anyway, I knew where Frank was, that he'd be just barely catching this ferry in the morning. So I told Junior, "Will you be there for that ferry?" I told him the time, and he'd be on that boat early. So it worked out perfect. There they are. They're both in the same boat. Frank is in a big rush. He's going to get this extra trip. Now he's in the back end of the boat. Junior's in front of him. Junior doesn't know the country, though. He's good. He said, "I'll catch you on the Selkirk Spruces frequency." We only had four channels those days. And I was coming out loaded, so I'm going to be right in the middle of all this mess. So anyway, they leave the boat. And Junior's happy as can be now. He scoops the old Baron. The Baron, he's behind, just giving her all he's got. And we go down into the beat, and there was a spot where there was a shortcut. Well, of course, Junior didn't know about the shortcut. And Frank, our radios didn't scan, so I mean, how does he know that I'm going to talk to Junior on Crestbrook? But anyway, Frank finds Junior on Crestbrook talking to me, you know, getting directions how to get in there. And Frank, being Frank, didn't realize that I was talking to Junior, and he said, "Who are you talking to?" And I said, "Oh, just one of the local guys." "Oh." He says, he started to chuckle. He says, "I just scooped the old black." He had another name for him there too. Well, Junior came on the radio then, and he gave him a whole line of language what he thought of the old Baron, and the war was on between them two right there. But Frank did pass him and create a big performance.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah, it was a good entertainment for an hour. But they, well, and then after this, we're at those meetings in the lodge, truckers' meetings. So I'm sitting on one side of the table in the Baron, I guess, and Junior's on the other side. And there was that hill going up after you left the boat on the pavement there, up going to Fish River. And Junior's gonna scoop Frank. And anyway, Junior really couldn't pass Frank. Frank had a hair more power, but Junior said all you gotta do is put the signal light on. And Frank wasn't good at shifting gears. So he'd get out, take a big run at the hill, and he'd put the signal light on, and the Baron figures, oh, he's got to shift. So Junior's on this side of the table, and Frank's on the other side, and Junior's been drinking lots, eh? And he's demonstrating how the Baron was shifting the gears, and he was putting on the signal light. Next thing you know, Frank's in neutral, and I don't know, it must have been 4 or 5 of us all blew by the old Baron. Frank, Junior knew enough that he kept sliding away from the table because he figured the Baron was coming over the table. If he ever got a hold of him, he'd have been dead. Frank had a black belt in karate in Europe before he came here.
Yeah, he was a big man too.
Yeah, so I know we were in the shop, it's in the days when we got CBs, and cutting in the antenna for length to match them. And I don't know, there's 3 or 4 of us were putting antennas in my truck. And Frank come along, and we're there, you know, with the wire cutters doing our thing. Frank says, what's wrong with the pliers? Well, so he grabbed them, one hand, you could just see the pliers bend, just snap, snap, snap. So if he'd have got hold of Junior, look out.
Snap.
Snap, snap.
Sure.
It's like somebody asked Paul Hartwick when, you ever miss a shift? Paul said, I haven't lost my strength yet.
He was out here grizzly bear.
Yeah, Paul was funny. Bruce Henderson was saying he rode in with him once, and everything Paul did was done right in the spur of the moment. When you did it, you did it. So he's halfway up to Beaver Hill, he decides it's time to eat. Into the lunch bucket, grabs a sandwich. Now he's up the switchback, it's time to shift. Just shove the sandwich, slap it in his mouth and give her a big shift.
He didn't believe in the 2-minute cool down.
No.
He'd shut her off before he even stopped rolling up to the fuel tanks.
Well, Paul and Frank, that was another story. We're over at Fish River and we're fueling up a T-lock there. And actually, Paul was really, really funny, and actually Ken Taylor and I were bunking together, but we'd wait for old Paul at night because he was loading quite a ways behind us, and we'd go have dinner together with him just because he was the way he was. Nothing else to do there anyway after supper, but anyway, the Baron goes to fuel up, and someone had, or Paul goes to fuel up, I mean, the Baron had left the fuel open because he drained the hose, I guess, that's what they're saying. So in the morning we get out there to go to work, and Paul, he gets this big shot of diesel fuel on him, and he blames the Baron. He gives him a big blast for draining the hose and leaving the fuel deal open. And the Baron, I'm sorry, I don't think I did it, but I'm sorry. So the next morning it's the same thing. Old Paul, he soaked the diesel fuel at night. He gets on the radio in the morning, and then the old Baron comes back. He said, yesterday I said I'm sorry. Today I call Zoo a son of a bitch.
Remember years ago when the merchant was here, nobody had much for radios in those days either. Every time something like that would happen, there'd be a sign appear on the road the next day.
Poems.
Yeah, old John Keel. Yeah.
Poems.
God keep.
I remember the company used to try and keep the road open, but all they had was that old grader with a single axle each end, and Frank Phelps would run it. Well, the rear end was always out of it. So we'd have ruts that deep in the snow before the grader showed up. I remember coming down around Morrow Creek Corner right in the middle of the road to load on, and I missed the shift. Or I lost the linkage in the shift is why. And I'm looking down like this, and I look up, and there's John Keel coming out empty. So he had no choice, he had to go in the ditch. So I got stopped, and I couldn't get backed up, so he showed me how to fix the truck. Backed up, pulled him out, and he said, well, young feller, he says, I was going in the bush, but not so damn soon, he says.
Yeah, he had lots of poems.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she wrote a book, didn't he?
He did,
He
yeah.
could.
Yeah, I
he
think
was-
I had a book
Yeah.
at home.
He's got more than one, I think he has two.
You got
Yeah,
one
you
I got one of
here.
his poems here.
You got one of his books
They were
here
good.
in your stuff.
And remember old Norm Green was a faller, and he had an old 53, I think it was, Ford pickup, and it ran away on him up on the Blue Water Hill. And the next day, it was a picture of this old Ford and this guy running along by.
Yeah, well, it was John that gave Sundown his name, Sundown
Yeah.
Buster.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
song about him.
Yeah, oh,
The guy down the valley wrote, "We've got it."
yeah.
Sundown Buster Shane.
Yeah.
There was another character, Sundown. I remember one time I was home in the boulder early, and that was what John wrote that poem about, you know. One more load to boulder, and then a load to town. There was something about before the sun goes down. That was his favorite thing. But anyway, they had a camp up in above Boulder Creek up there, not down the mill, but there. And Sundown broke a leg. And the bunkhouses were right alongside the road. And I come down out of there, big high load, holding the boat in this. Sundown sitting out on the step in front of the bunkhouse was cast out across the road like this, working on a power saw. And I come down, and I stop. Well, I'm going to run over your leg, you know. Come on, you got room. So I had to crawl up on the bank, and the big high load hanging over top of him.
Never moved.
Yeah, it was, and then when Dave Erickson flew off of Surprise Rapids, well, that was Sundown. Come down to this old international pickup, no brakes, and there was only a single lane. Dave was coming up, there was truck and pop, load of lumber. So, over the side, Dave went, missed Sundown.
They had lots of little Jippo mills out there back then, didn't they?
Yeah, there was, just you were talking at Surprise Rapids, there was a mill just up in the flat.
Rosedale.
No, Roosevelt was at Surprise Rapids, just up in the flat, just this side of. And I don't know what it had for a motor in there, but they had shells that you started with. You put the
Yep.
shell in the cylinder
Oh,
and
yeah.
hit her with a hammer.
Yeah.
It was on the
Those were the aerial
flats,
engines, weren't
mosquito flats up there.
They were an English
Oh,
engine,
yeah,
and their wheel trucks and everything fired the same
Weren't
way.
they an aerial, like almost like a plane engine kind of thing?
Yeah, kind
Yeah.
of. But
Radio.
it was an English engine. They fired with a 12-gauge shotgun shell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just bang.
Yeah.
who was it, had a mill in Shell Creek, up in, around,
Hindu, wasn't it?
huh?
Wasn't them Hindus that were out there?
No, no.
Shell Creek,
Just outside Busher, always before the lake, on the old highway. You went across,
all by Bush Lakes.
you went across the old Bush River Bridge and then you wandered around the
Just
lake
up.
and then across Shell Creek and then up.
Another thing now, Henry Ricard probably knows more about this, but they were bringing logs across the Columbia River there, not far from Bush River, and they had 4 tanks,
Harry
railroad
Ozzychuk.
tanks.
Harry Ozzychuk built that.
Wasn't Ricard logging over there for
Yeah.
him?
But Harry Ozzychuk built
He
that.
built that.
He built the ferry, yeah. Right above Surprise. If you lost that ferry, you were going down to Surprise Rapids. Yeah.
They had one below Surprise Rapids too, didn't they? A cable stretched across the river and they
Well, there was
had
one,
a tank or something.
that was the ice bridge.
Yeah.
There was one at Boulder Creek from many, many years back. They used to bring the poles across.
Oh, okay.
And they had a bit of a barge big enough to take a team of horses or that little cat.
But they had an ice bridge the other side of the Boulder Mill. Across there and then logged up
the 81,
Yeah, it's
81 mile, wasn't it?
Up Smith Creek
Yeah,
over
but
on
down
the other
to
side
the
up
east.
there. That's how that creek got named Smith. And, we hauled there for quite a while. It was, then in the spring of the year, and things were getting soft, and the bridge would sink right down under the water. We'd come across, and finally I was the only one left who would haul across it. It was,
Couldn't swim anyway, so might as well go.
But one day there was, I pulled up to the bridge, stopped, and Smith, he was the logging contractor, he pulled in behind me, and High Pockets.
Yeah, remember I
Billy
thought
Shaker.
said a
High
ride there.
Pockets was coming down the hill, and it was steep down to the bridge, and down he come, you know, and there's High Pockets, about 6'8", you know, in that little Mac.
All crammed in there.
Yeah, just standing up with his nose against the winch, going across the bridge. And Smithy, if that kid's gonna drive like that, he's not gonna haul here.
I don't think he went back after that trip either.
I don't think he ever did.
I remember a trip down, not on that road, but we went down along the river to Windy Sloughs, and they built a new piece of road with a steep little jump up. And I don't know, there was 3 or 4 of us there, a bunch of young, like me, we were young in those days. And Junior was there. Junior's the first guy there, so, well, we're now scared about this steep little pitch we're gonna have to come down. So we're all up there taking a look to see what he's got on for chains and what he's doing and all the rest of it to kind of get an idea what to do in this hill. So anyway, while they're waiting for him to come. So he comes down there, just pours the coal to her the whole way down, hits the bank and the bottom, flies up against the, everything, and away he goes. So that's how much educating there. We weren't gonna do that.
We're not that skilled, we're gonna leave that alone.
What about upsets? Most of you,
Junior's got the record.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how many times I picked him up.
Yeah, I'm sure he's,
Yeah,
Got pictures in here, you picking me up there.
yeah.
I can say one thing though, there was always something broke or something run me off the road. I only dumped 2, that one and the one out south on there. You didn't dump any until the last couple of years, what happened to you?
What happens when you turn 30?
I guess you
That's
get
right.
old.
well, I dumped one, but Ratchet led me astray.
Yeah.
We went into, Valencia's or someplace, and there was a slide across the road. This was opening up the road, so we opened up the road, that's when we had blue water. Pushed the slide out, but I mean, it's 50, 75 feet wide now, where it's been all pushed out. We go in, following what we think are cat tracks or whatever else that we think were on the road. Coming back out, loaded, Ken was ahead of me, and he had our triaxle trailer that A&H had at the time. And he stayed on the road probably, but his trailer had one tire, half of one tire on the edge of the road, the rest was off. Well, I came along there, my truck was in his tracks, but my trailer, of course, tracked
Cut
off
off,
more
yeah.
than his. And all at once, boom, trailer's off the road, upside down.
They say Bob Dryer never, ever dropped a load. Did he ever flop a load, Bill?
Not that I know.
That's what I always heard, and Bob was the one that trained me. I never hauled a log till Bob did, but he said he never fell over.
That Valencia you were talking about when I bought the 86 brand spanking new, come down out of there, and there was one little pitch that kind of rough. I was coming up that and I could hear this noise, and what's this noise? Nothing really seemed wrong, it was a slide coming. And I just got the cab through it and it hit me, and was straight down on the other side for miles there, and it kept moving the truck like this, about 6 inches at a time. I jumped out, and I put chains on it, without doing the inside, just the inside and the outside, got back in, I must have been panicking a little bit, brand new truck. I managed to get it out of there just as another piece of that slide come down and closed the road off. But I broke the cross member underneath my radiator. I was torquing it so bad that all of a sudden every time I'd go to make a shift, I'd hear the fan was hitting the shroud. What the hell's going on here? Never got any pictures of that
Might
either.
have been in a hurry.
So what about the load you dumped up into the Blaeberry?
Redford, you forget about
Redford.
it?
No, the bridge, you mean up Hunter Creek Bridge?
No, not that one.
That was Redburn, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, Redbird, yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty, I went up there and I put a load of fur on and come down out of the landing and never even went 2 truck lengths and started going uphill. Well, I was spun out already, it was all muddy, it started raining. So Rolly St. Louis come down with the skidder and hooked onto me. And he started pulling me out of there and the whole trailer started going like this. Right? So I bailed out. And Rolly bailed out. We left him. We were both skidder hooked onto my truck and the only thing was in front of my truck sticking up in the air, everything else down over the mountain. Yeah, and then another time after that, I
And
didn't
then now we start to remember all these loads again.
that same time, the load, like when it come off, it come up in the air like that, and then it come down and it slapped the back of my truck. Like bent my ride bars and everything. Well, it also broke on your rear end housings, or on the ends of your
You
walking
just
bridge.
about took Thunder Creek Bridge out.
Yeah, well, the end of the walking
That
bridge, you
would have
got that
saved the
pin.
government some money if you'd have knocked it out.
Right, you got a
They
pin
took it
and then
out
you got
later.
that bushing thing. Well, the pin had broke. When I did that, I hauled for another month or so after that. Hit that bridge at 100 clicks, and there was 3 trucks coming. The last taillights was right beside me and that stupid bushing was all that was left. It broke. Well, then the load come down and hit my driver, just locked him. Just turned me like that sideways right there, right? But I managed to get it around again and got it stopped. It was dark and I got no flashlight. And I thought I blew a steering axle. So I'm out there feeling things, I can't find anything wrong. Finally figured out what was the matter with it, so I jacked it up and chained it. And then I got Columbia Diesel to come out, and they guided me in and got the scales to let me go through with only 3 wheels and a load. But that was because of that same time, eh? Didn't lose the load that time, but pretty
You
much
went
the
through the
truck.
scales and they let you through?
Yeah, yeah, they're just chained up. But I forget who it was, I think it was Penno actually, was working for Columbia Diesel, and he went ahead and explained to him what was happening. I was coming in with this crippled truck, and they couldn't fix it on the road, and I don't know what all he told them, but they let me go through with only 3 wheels in there. But it didn't dump that load. Ruined a couple of tires, but it didn't.
now.
Yeah, you can't, that's right, you can't even go with a flat tire.
No, not supposed to.
I think Doug's only dumped 1 load. The Nasty Cat.
No,
Rebel
2.
Truck. 2.
Pat Milam was logging up the one right around Sleepy Hollow, your little favorite parking spot.
It's gonna get
Somewhere,
roughed
some
out.
little side road anyways. And there was, this time.
You don't even wanna go there, cause you couldn't keep track of all of the ones that I threw back into the forest, or
I only know of 1,
you only know of one.
just Sleepy Hollow. That's the only one. I
That's the
know.
only one I remember.
Where you were
There's
holding
been-
it back
there's
there, that
been
was
a number
steeper
of
than the
them.
cow's face there.
It was steep and it was a narrow little thingy there, and I was trailer heavy. I cut around the corner and the trailer went in. And it didn't take the truck over. The Nasty Cat one in Revelstoke, that took the truck over.
Because you have no bolt in the compensator.
Yeah, the compensator didn't come out. The
You
trailer
took
went over
some-
the bank and it
You
took the
took some
truck.
bad advice from somebody, the compensator came out, and then
Yeah. No, that's what it was. Yeah, the compensator come out and the trailer went right off the road like it
and the
did.
guy jumped.
Yeah.
I was
Spent 2
hauling,
nights in the Revelstoke hospital.
Yeah, he damn near killed himself by jumping.
in Canal Flats with that dog logger I had, and I was just about gonna miss the scale, so I come around the long corner there at the end off the river, lined up for the scales, and looked in the mirror, and there's my damn loads way out there. There's my lock on my reach had broke, so the reach had slid ahead. Well, then it locked up in the back of that dog when it turned the corner, just bent my compensator like that, eh? So I had to go around the scales, go to the shop, they cut it off, welded it back together so I could get the load weighed, and then I had to go to Cranbrook, put a new compensator in.
So I paid $5 for my Class 1 license. What'd you pay, Bert? I had to buy a chauffeur license for $5.
When, you mean when you
First got them.
Yeah.
first, well,
It cost us $75 a year to keep them now, eh, Bert?
I think it's $100. There's, when,
Well, you got a certificate.
when the air tickets first come up,
Okay, I don't remember that, but I know when we got air tickets,
1960.
they brought a school in here for us.
Yeah, I remember
And I
that.
was working for Henderson's at the time, and they set the sign that I was driving an air-equipped vehicle. And we went to night school here for a couple nights.
Yeah, I think Dad said when he did his, Mom came with him and
Yeah.
actually filled out all the questions.
Some of the guys did, the wife did the writing and everything.
I had to study it.
A picture of that.
Yeah, I was
Yeah, that's
doing that
one
too.
of, one of the
And
first
you know,
ones.
I'd quit driving then, I was running cattle and kosers, and I was driving crew cab up there, and that was a C or something, eh? And B was the truck, or I forget what it was, no, C was the truck.
See was the truck.
Okay, well, I had B and C. So then when they give me my new license, somebody in Victoria figured, well, B must be better than C. So here I was licensed to drive a 12-passenger crew cab with air brakes. Well, there was no such thing. I had to go and take the whole damn test all over again.
Didn't they have a medal?
Yes,
Yeah, you put a,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
big-
Before you
Big
got.
$5 for it.
everybody either had them on their belts
Yeah.
or hats or,
Yeah,
yeah,
I, somewhere home over the belt,
with
all
one on it.
all
Yeah.
around it.
Did you get a new medal every year?
Hmm?
Did you
Yeah.
get a new medal every year? Was it a
every year
renewal?
that you got your
Yeah,
license,
yeah,
yeah.
I don't remember buying more than one.
Yeah, you got that every year, yeah.
Yeah.
But then you had to renew your license every year too.
See, now we gotta go every year and pay them $75 to see if we're still alive, so they give it back to us.
Medical.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta get mine right now, or mine will be expiring. What's he doing over there? Oh, he's taking
Taking
pictures.
pictures.
Well, every once in a while at the safety meetings that I go to, they have a little discussion about some of these
Yeah,
tickets that you could get or had to get, and when they came into existence, but that's a good one.
And this here is, when Kicking Horse first started, I made this first cover of it.
B61 back down there, it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's written on the side of the hood, Bert?
Huh?
What's written on the side of the hood by the logo?
Savage. That was the name of the
Name of the
truck.
truck. They all had
Not
names.
you,
Huh?
not you, the truck.
That's. That's me up on the bulkhead.
When he was driving for Magnus, he was hauling for my dad, and Ray was running the load, remember that time?
Yeah,
We had pig's feet, eh? And you'd hand your rope up to the driver, and he was on top of the cab, and he put the loader once. Well, Bert was standing up there to take the tongs off, and Ray swings the log over. There was no place for Bert to go, but the log was still coming, so
Yeah.
he tried to jump over it, but he ended up grabbing it like
yeah,
that.
I
and
grabbed the stake, eh? And
Yeah.
I took my arm right around behind and.
Twisted his shoulder right out.
And twisted my shoulder right out.
Knocked him on the ground. Ray gets out, slowly walks over there, and look, Bert was plumb white, he was in so much pain. Ray puts his foot up in his armpit and gets his arm, and there.
Fixed it.
Fixed it, he drove out of there.
First aid,
First aid,
On the spot first aid.
Oh,
Nice.
that hurt.
oh, could hardly breathe.
who was loading you there, Bert?
That- Ray was.
Ray, my brother.
Oh, okay.
And Bill was hooking drums. Yeah.
Yeah, but when he went off, we were on the other side of the truck. Oh, what happened to Bert? We all go run over there, see if he's still alive.
My shoulder was here in
Oh,
front
yeah,
of
I
me.
remember that. Remember old Savage? Remember you were too
They're
young
on
for
the-
that.
God, I don't remember that.
Yeah, you're over
Finish the
50.
day.
I'm just
Yeah.
a kid.
Yeah.
Well, 60's not that far away, is it?
It's like Bill when he breaks his leg. You finish the day too.
Well, I didn't know it was broke.
Finished today.
Well, I was over at the, Shelter Bay, trying to throw them great big bloody cables. He had to have a knack to throw them over. Well, I threw it, and it didn't go over. Instead of pulling it back down, I'd give it a jerk. Well, here it come. So I stuck my arm up, this arm I guess it was, and it hit my arm, went right through my jaw, right through my cheek here. I got scars there, knocked these two teeth out, and started out the other side. So I finally got it out of there, and I got the cables on, and I went and dumped, and it was hot that day, and I had just a t-shirt on. Yeah, it's covered with blood. I come back in the scales, and the girl was working there, she's typing away. I says, have you got a first aid kit here? Why, she says, and looked up, and just about passed out. There was blood all over me. But she patched me all up, and all she had for tape was duct tape. She patched it all up, put some duct tape on, and that's pretty good. I went and got another trip. And then I got home, and Annie says, well, you better go to the doctor. That's pretty bad. You better get it stowed up. So I went in there, and he said, what'd you do this? And I told him, he says, well, you're only allowed 12 hours, and you can't sew them anymore. So never did get it stitched up. Just put butterfly bandages on it. Still got the teeth missing.
So serious accidents, you've talked about flopping them over, your trailers over and so forth, but how many of you have been involved in serious accidents where you were injured?
Nobody, I don't think.
I never was.
Ford Fuse was tangled up in one that was pretty bad.
Yeah.
With Mark Murray?
29 mile corner. Know what you
Oh,
call
you were
it?
driving for Allison then?
Kelly Bond.
Yeah, Kelly Vaughn.
Mark Murray was with Taylor and who the heck else?
Yeah, they banged together, but I don't think they got hurt.
No. Jack Leslie had a bad one time too. He
Yeah,
pinned in the
Shell-
cab,
Shell
Mike
Creek
Garrett
and
was pretty good.
all lumber.
but he was
Well,
pinned.
Gord was pinned in the truck for a while
Yeah.
too.
Oh, poor old Jack was in there all night, and the mosquitoes were just something
Oh.
terrible. He was almost, couldn't even hardly talk the next day. He was just delirious with all the mosquitoes and everything, eh?
When we getting them out of there, you know, we took one man working, another guy with a tree branch. Just
Getting rid of the mosquitoes.
just getting rid of the mosquitoes, beating
Yeah. And he spent the whole night in there, couldn't do nothing, but nobody really got hurt or anything. And a couple guys got killed, or a log fell on them or something, but
yeah.
Mike Garrett was pretty good though when he was in the past there that time.
Albert Canyon.
Yeah, he
Gary
was,
Dredge
yeah.
at the time,
Yeah. He never did recover from it.
Oh, really, not 100%.
No, not even close.
Most of you guys, or all of you guys, have spent most of your driving careers right here in the Columbia Valley.
well, originated here. We started, later on, we started hauling to,
Oh.
Yeah, all
Revelstoke
over the
or
place.
wherever, eh, but
But you were always based out of
Golden.
out
Yeah.
of Golden.
But there was, at one time, there was 82 trucks, all locally owned, worked out of Golden. Now what is there now? How many trucks are left now? Not very many,
20,
Well,
if
25.
that.
well, at that time Magnus had 26 of them.
Yeah, yeah,
26.
yeah.
Holy. All mostly Max?
Well, you had
No,
Kimbers
yeah,
and
everything
Max
is-
and Internationals. And
Yeah. Had one auto car that I took out new, Big John.
they're all the same color, but they were different makes. Eh?
Yeah. Yeah. The first, well, the first one was Ozark, was International. Then he
There was two of them, wasn't there, two binders?
With the Rolls Royces. in it.
Gunsmoke was the V-liner that we had before.
But didn't they have two of them with Rolls Royces in them or not?
No, just one.
one?
Just the one, yeah.
Jimmy Younger drove.
And then you've got the four Max.
Fury was one of them, that's the one that I ended up driving.
Very, that's one,
Well,
one character took it up.
They got the first V8 Mac. Roy
Yeah,
drove it, eh, brand
Ken
spanking.
Kaiser
Mhm.
drove it.
Roy and I were hauling at Parson, and I had a brand new Mac too, but mine was the old V61. Roy would have his truck serviced and everything else. They wouldn't let us drive him home. It was too far to Parson. We had to take a pickup. He always had to wait for me because I was still coming down the hill. He'd already unloaded, serviced his truck, fueled up, ready to go.
I don't believe you.
Well, he had a good
Actually,
truck.
Just saying. I don't believe you.
when I ended up
That
going
must
to
be
work,
he finally caught up there.
Unless you had one more trip than him, maybe.
when I ended up going to work at Parson, Roy is the one that made sure I knew about my water, made sure the water in the trailer and everything was working and what to do with it. 'Cause you got to the top of the hill, we had no engine brake.
7 miles there.
Turn the water on full bore and just trailer brakes. Save your truck brakes in case something happened with your water system, you could stop. And
That's why they changed the road at the bottom there. It used to go right straight down off the second last switchback. Kept going through Faith and Noah's barnyards. Finally changed it so we didn't run over his cows. Yeah, you didn't have much brakes when you got the bottom. 7 miles of adverse
Yeah.
there, eh?
And the brakes only were 6 inches wide in those days. They weren't 7s.
Yeah.
And they probably weren't good to start with.
No,
Well, like
that's-
this.
the originals too, they only had, well, the first air brakes, they only had 4-inch slack adjusters too.
Yeah, yeah.
And as the years passed and they wanted more brake, the foundation brake basically stayed the same and they just kept making that slack adjuster longer and longer and
More
longer.
leverage.
Yeah.
You know, the brakes were terrible. That first old thing I drove for Magnus, I used to put my chains on the trailer to go down the Blue Water Hill, get to the bottom, take them off and put them on the truck so I could
You
get
go
up.
up the other side.
I had no truck brakes.
Yeah.
How big of brake drums were they? They were
But they,
small.
well, Mac had those, they didn't have rollers, they had those
Wedges.
those slide things that
Yeah.
pushed.
Yeah.
And I remember being down the yard here demonstrating to some, there's 60 pounds there, I couldn't slide a wheel empty. I gotta put my chains in the trailer, come down the Blue Water.
Yeah, they had like a wedge affair, didn't they?
Mhm.
Yeah, it was
Somehow,
flat against flat, they'd have to
Yeah.
at the slide.
Boy, technology come a long ways, guys.
Yeah,
I was
So
thinking,
the foundation brake hasn't changed. They made the drums bigger, like when they went to cam brakes. They made the drums bigger, they made them wider.
In those days,
But
though,
the
you had to be a
basics are still
driver.
identical.
You had to know how to drive in those days because there was 2 sticks to play with out there too, eh? And no brakes and no power steering. And, you know, anybody can drive a truck nowadays compared to one of them.
Holy, my air conditioner don't work, I get mad.
No, we didn't have it. It rolls down the windows.
Yeah,
and
that's a day off.
That old V-liner used to get so hot coming up them hills that you could actually fry an egg on the floor. You'd hold your feet up off the floor because it was too hot to be on the floor.
And you had to be right on your timing when you're shifting.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I only ever drove one two-stick
neutral or
truck,
neutral.
and I kept it in the same gear. I was driving hauling gravel for Jack Woods over here at the dike, and he put the main, or the auxiliary in gear. He said, just use this big one, kid. That's all you need. I never had to touch the other one ever. That's the only two-stick I've ever been in.
I started just at the changeover because I only drove a couple of 5 and 4. One of Roy's trucks had a 5 and 4 I drove.
Well, I guess Dad had a 5 and 4, but
And
we
then
never had to
Lucky
drive
has
it. We
gravel
rolled with them.
trucks.
I rode with them. Barry had an old dump truck, I drove that lots on the farm.
You guys did, yeah, I never did.
Hauled gravel all around the farm.
Roy's old record, remember that Kenworth record, he had a 5 and 4.
Yeah.
But one was a Splicer and the other was an Eaton's. There was no way you could drive that thing, they just would not synchronize.
Could he drive it?
Oh, I could drive it, but no, I'll tell you,
Wasn't easy.
it wasn't easy. You could hear me shifting all the way down here, you know.
First truck
5
I
and
drove
4
was
the 318 Jimmy.
Yeah, 318 Jimmy, yeah.
Huh?
Did you master it?
Oh, yeah.
White that Jack Leslie had with the air clutch.
Oh, that was hard to drive too.
Yeah. Right. Well, I worked with you over until, where was that, that was Canoe. And that thing was mean to top that transmission, with the, I think the teeth are about this big and about this far apart.
And then you had that stupid gauge there for the air, let the clutch out, let them look at the gauge, let the clutch out. You either killed it or you were going.
Yeah, but that transmission, right? And she kicked you right back. I went, you touched her, bang, just
Snap you
sting
that.
your hand.
Probably interesting to note though, at least for this, that Jack did that
Yeah.
because he only had one leg.
Yeah,
That's why he got the air clutch.
Yeah, and he lost it because of gangrene, was it? He froze his foot,
Can't cancer, turned to cancer.
Yeah.
so he lost it where, at the knee?
Yeah.
Right at the knee.
I remember going out at Sullivan Lane, he'd lay it against the side of his bed at night, so if he had to get up to the bathroom, just legs right there, he could never find it in the dark, so you'd hear him bonk, bonk, he'd be bouncing on one leg down to the bathroom.
But it never slowed him down, like he drove for many years just with one leg. right?
Oh, yeah.
Speaking of air conditioners, do you remember that time in the harbor when we were hauling out there?
With the foam. Yeah, I remember that.
My air conditioner was working real good. Dale and I were hauling out of the harbor. He was saying his air conditioner wasn't working where the hoot. I was coming back empty and he was coming out loaded. I took the Bon-Ami and sprayed the inside of my windows except for a little spot like that. Put my tube on when I got
Air conditioners are working
Like
good.
110 in the shade. I got all the windows down and the dust that is froze up.
That's funny.
That's priceless.
Yeah. He had a few choice words for me.
He never rattled old Dale much though. No. I backed right
He
over
did.
his truck one day on the landing, he comes walking around, what you doing, Bill? He's like, I pushed the hood right off his truck with my trailer.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
You didn't get mad?
He didn't let it show anything. Then we had to hurry out there and get a bunch of tarp straps and put the hood back on and tie it on.
Then tied back down so I could carry on.
Oh, well, you got the best deal. He got a new bumper and he got
Oh,
a
yeah.
new hood and his air conditioner fixed. All on my bill.
Yeah.
We had some good races when we were hauling out of the harbor.
You raced, Harold?
Yeah, I remember catching, he was outs-
So we would never have thought that,
he
ever.
was outside the truck on top of the blue water. And then I come along, so, well, you're back with your trailer, and I see you running up to get in your truck, and by the time you get going, we're just kind of about neck and neck. Well, we went down that straightaway to Jodman's Corner, full bore, never slacked off one bit. And pretty wide corner, so I figured, well, I'll just go down the middle. We met a forestry pickup. Well, anyway, we carried on into Donald, and I thought for sure he's gonna come with a pipe after this. Well, he comes up there and says, you should have seen the bloody rocks flying back there. Happy as could be. So we turn around, we go back. Now here's this forestry pickup. You can see these tracks right along the very outside edge of the road, and we sneaking back into Donald.
Yeah, but he wasn't the only one that got that kind of treatment. Out in Kosher's one winter, Paul Ricard was the area supervisor. KT and I were coming out of there together, and we hear him coming. We're talking on the CB, and we decide to set him up. So we're coming down the straight stretches side by side. But of course, we set this all up ahead of time, who was gonna slow down and who was gonna speed up. We came around the corner, here's Ricard coming. And the first thing he did is he tries to drive his truck off the road, but it won't go. So it's hitting the snowbank, bang, bang, and it keeps bouncing him back out onto the road, eh? And here we come around the corner, we were probably doing 60 miles an hour. Of course, we all get straightened around and get tucked in behind one another. And last time we see Ricard, he's still bouncing off the snowbank. He still reminds me of that now and again, to this day. And that had to be 20 years ago or more.
I'd like to have been standing there when Junior got drenched that day in Closures. That spring when the water was so deep on the road and it couldn't get off because the snowbank's there. And was it Arnie's brother? What was his name? Holler. Slewfoot. Ernie. He come flying by there and didn't even slow down. And Ron was outside his truck doing something. Just a whole wall of water. I remember him yelling on the radio. Call him some choice
I
names.
never heard about that one.
Didn't you? Oh yeah, that was fun.
Well, there was a few of those incidents. Kenny Williams set Les and I up real good one day on the 10 mile. It's a good thing that Bedker had a good sense of humor. Because I forget, I think it was Les that had a new truck. Him and Gordon. At any rate, we'd never been in a situation where we could find out who had the most power, of course. Kenny was ahead of us, and he said, if you guys want to square off on the 10 mile, there's nobody coming. So here the pair of us get squared up on the bottom, go across the 10 mile bridge, side by side, up around the corner, and right at the runaway lane, who's there? Gordon coming down there. Both of us on tilt, coming around the corner.
Hard as you can go.
As hard as you could go. Calls us on the radio and says, you boys want to switch to 4? that was his private channel.
Yeah.
The only thing he ever said about that incident, ever, was what he said on the radio, and that was, if I'd wanted you boys to race, I'd have bought you a couple of Ferraris.
End of the story.
So actually racing off the 10 mile, had a few races with the old Red Baron. And there again, he couldn't shift gears. So and he had more power than I had. I knew he could pass me. So you get on the 10 mile bridge, you just slow up, drop back into 7th gear or something like that, and then away you'd go. Well, he'd never get organized to catch you again. So one day we're coming back in loaded, and he's right on my tail. Now he's going to pass me on the 5 mile hill again. So we get up to where he was just about passing lane where he could start going out in front of me. I just slowed up that little bit. And he was right up against the end of my load because he's going. All of a sudden, you see the front of the old truck bouncing. He says, holy mackerels, did you miss one? End of the race. Bill and I were just talking about Shorty Mac here a while back. He had a wooden reach in his trailer, and it broke, and his load ends up in the Columbia River. So I was part of the logging crew. We were going home back to camp after work, and here's this little log floating down the river. Bill said Shorty never hauled another load. That was it. He quit.
I think he quit after that.
Wow.
That was the end of it.
He lost his nerve, he was scared after that.
Who was driving?
There was a few pretty good spills happening around the bend.
Well, that was a bad place. The road was very narrow and like this all the way up, or straight down to the river on that side.
Oh, I can remember just as a little kid riding with Dad, looking out the mirror thinking, how does that trailer follow us around the corner? It can't be.
The summer wasn't so bad, but in the wintertime, boy, it was always a slide or something in there.
Where the hell did you get that?
Colleen has it.
Even the summertime, it was no man's land. I mean, tourists going through there involved in an accident, there was nothing.
Because that was the highway, wasn't
Yeah.
It was the main highway, yeah.
You were on your own.
I'll show
Because
you.
I know the logging camp, they'd come there looking for a first aid man or something, and more than once, like my dad and the others in the camp, they'd go down to someone that's off the road and take them out of the vehicle and load them. They had, we called them bun wagons, that's what they had for a crew cab, but they're those old army trucks, like Dodge Power Wagons, but they had instead of just a cab, they were like a full
Suburban life.
suburban kind of thing. And they'd load them up in there and on a stretcher and haul them into town.
I remember one time we come down the old Blue Water and there was a old fellow from Saskatchewan that just made it to the top and come to a stop. In fact, he wasn't quite to the gravel pit yet. He stopped me. And you want to know how much more of that road there was? I said, oh, probably another 65 miles. I'm going back to town. He said, but I don't want to drive down that hill. He wanted to pay me to drive his car back down that hill. You know, and I couldn't drive it and then walk all the way back. So I said, why don't you leave it there and just come for a ride with me? I'll give you a ride to town. Give him a ride to town. When he went back to get it, somebody had jacked it up, stripped all the tires and wheels off. It was just nothing left of his car when he got back up there.
No, you were on your own out there. There's no radios, no telephones, nothing.
Well, even after we started maintaining, I remember we had that old front-wheel drive there at the mill with a big snowblower on it, and I had the old Jack Woods on it, and we had a cat cross-plowing to go from Bush Harbor across the flats and over to the other side. Couldn't keep up. We'd get across, and it'd be blowing in again. Turn around, come back, blowing in again. Finally, just give up, wait till the storm's passed, and then go plow the road.
Yeah.
So
Eli
today
was
they
running
have
the
you kind of bubble wrapped up in your new trucks with all the safety equipment in them. What was it like when you first started driving? What was the safety conditions like?
Wasn't any.
Stay on your own side of the road. It was about, well, you had no radios, but there wasn't that many trucks hauling, and you pretty well knew about where you were going to meet somebody's truck.
And the loaded ones probably weren't going more than 10 miles an hour.
Get the mirrors so the rest will follow.
Yeah, right.
And that's what they used to do, that when they'd meet a truck, the empty truck would always ram it into the ditch, into the snowbank, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then you'd go past him and pull him back out and he could carry on.
I remember they made us
Because there
put
wasn't meeting spots.
clearance lights on the bullboards that extended so they'd go up past your load. I remember I spent all one weekend putting these fancy ones that come back and forth. First trip out, I met one of Patrick's truck, the guy that had no fingers, see?
Oh, yeah.
And I met him and neither one of us could get out of the rut, so we just, cabs went by, but we hit my bullboard and everything. There goes my fancy light out in the bush someplace. Split my radiator wide open, and that old haze never even affected that thing. He just went on to work. Mine was parked for a week.
But you'd have no WCB rules, no company rule, regulation, protocol, none of that. Company ever send you a letter? Probably not. You fend for yourself, you just have to.
Pretty well.
When radios first come out, well, when Magnus got them there, and let's see, it was Art and Mick. Yeah, you remember who was going the other way, two of Magnus' trucks? On that, what do they call it, the other side of Marl Creek, that, the corner there. And
That's where I ran into Patrick.
we didn't have mileage or anything, you know, we just went, well, like the
Muddy ditch.
Muddy ditch, and, you know, yeah. Places like this, and they're talking to each other, nobody gonna meet, I was like, there they are. 2 mirrors gone.
And the forestry put a stop to that because we were still calling him after the radios.
Yeah.
Going to meet you at the Muddy Ditch or,
Yeah,
you know, Sleepy Hollow or whatever, eh?
Yeah.
And they said, no, well, nobody knows what that is but you guys. So we had to start calling the miles.
And they've changed the miles 3 times since we went
Yes.
there.
Well, then they went to kilometers and then they changed the roads, so signs would all change.
Marshalling point.
Yeah.
Well, they
When
changed.
Magnus is running all those trucks, I'm sure a dozen or more were missing fenders per breakup.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Or more, probably. There might have been 3 or 4 maybe that still had their fenders.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they were tie strapped on or dented holes in them.
Yeah.
One
But the
thing that
roads
hasn't
are
been
narrow,
mentioned though is the moose. They were something else out there in
Yeah,
those days. They'd get on that road and they wouldn't leave.
And then they get
and
mad, eh?
They'd ram you. The
Remember-
bulls would put their head down and ram the front end of the truck, and
Yeah.
the cows would put their front feet up and
Remember that,
give you a paw.
we were talking about Higby's old corn binder, that's what happened to him. Moose on the road, and he chased it right to the Blue Water Bridge, and that's it, the moose is not going any further. Turned around, he took the IH right off the front of it, rammed a couple holes in the door, and somebody had a rifle, so they shot it. Nobody had a knife. Old Harry Ozzychuk gets out with his power saw, and they're trying to gut this moose with a power saw.
But they were mean, and
And
there
that
was
was a
lots of them.
common thing, wasn't it?
Oh,
There
yeah.
was lots of them.
Even between Donald and Golden,
Yeah.
you always see moose in around by Jimmy Neal's corners and that.
Well, isn't that what happened to Gordon once when he was driving for Montgomery or something?
Could have, yeah.
Yeah.
Blew his horn at one of those moose and it took the front end of the truck pretty near right off.
Remember old Weber, when he first started driving, he bought Droser's truck, wasn't it?
Mhm.
Anyway, he's got his rifle, but no hunting knife or nothing else, so he shoots a moose, shoots his nose off. Then he finally got a shot, then he come, where was I? I was out in my pickup or
You were
something.
coming, yeah, down the hill in pickup.
You wouldn't happen to have a knife with you, would you?
So what's the worst road you've driven on? One at a time, can, like the worst roads.
Camp David or Nemesis or,
Yeah, what, trouble is that we consider really bad in those days wouldn't be today because we didn't have a truck. What was a really
Yeah.
bad road for us in those days with
But you,
today's truck.
you went from
Yeah, we had
junky
basically,
trucks to good trucks, like you've been through the years, all of you have.
the Camp David and them were probably as bad as anything we had.
And even in a good truck,
The
that was still a
Nemesis.
steep road.
Nemesis was the worst one
Nemesis
for
was a
me.
bad one.
Yeah.
Cost was
Rear ends and drive lines and stuff.
five rear ends, I think I took out.
Well,
But, yeah.
Coach, or Glen Ogle wasn't very good on rear ends either, eh, so,
That was a
Only
5
ever
axle,
lost
I
one
think.
though.
That was 5 axles.
yeah.
Navy Creek, that was,
Yeah, there was some bad on top.
yeah, it was, what was it, 13 switchbacks up to one side and then down 3, going down, back down, dead full length, and then 13 down.
Yeah. I remember Navy Creek.
And up in the Waybury, we had like 21 switchbacks on that.
Yeah, the octopus.
Mm-hmm.
I got a picture.
But they were bad roads for the trucks at the time, but today's trucks would,
Well, some of them you wouldn't get
Better
by with
brakes
today's
and-
trucks because there wasn't enough road for the
No.
trailers. But this is on the way up to
There's
that.
always Cupola.
That's right, Capola was
That's
the
my
dinner.
worst one.
That's gotta be.
This is looking at Mummery Glaciers on the way up to
Oh,
that.
Yep.
You're talking about. I used to break the bolts through my damn scale pads. Because the trailer would still be like this and the truck would be turned on them corners and they would just snap them pins. I don't know how many it had to come and drill them out of there and rethread them and put new bolts in about once a week, it seemed like.
SIs?
Yeah, yeah. But those switchbacks is what did it, because your load was like this all the time, eh? I remember old Bedker coming down that Camp David, and his load was hanging out the back, come around the switchback, and the load went up on the bank and flipped him right over, right in the middle of the switchback.
Not the same road Ralphie wrecked that one truck of Matt's? Is that Camp David? That light blue star when Matt had 2 trucks for that little short time?
I don't
Yeah, it
remember if
could've
that was
been.
Camp David.
Yeah, I think he underestimated the push and she freewheeled right off the end of that switchback.
They first put that road in, I was working for Briscoe and the damn mill burned down. So I come up here and was scabbing, hauling right away. And Harry Himmler was loading it up in there and had what they used to call grippers then. They were good winter tires. You'd never need a change if you had a fire. So first trip, I didn't know what gear to start out and anything else, and I started out 1 gear too low. 4 or 8, I should say, tires with a flat spot about like that before I got everything turned. Ruined my winter tires anyway.
well, I know I was up Camp David or Nemesis, one of them. And they were losing rear ends and drive lines, everything else up there, and I thought, I gotta know what happens if I break my drive line, if I can stop this. So I dynamited the trailer and the truck. We only had maxis on one axle in those days. And I slid the trailer and ruined them, but I knew then that if something happens to the
You better
drive line, I'm jumping out. I'm not-
You're just
Because
gonna
I did my test in a good spot. And
That's another thing I learned up at Sullivan there too, was hauling in that mud. I was saving my brakes, I was coming down on the jig, but then you'd have to step on the fuel once in a while. Well, I was 1 gear too low, and every time I stepped on the fuel, everything was that rear end was really taking a beat.
Compounding all
Yeah,
that.
I took the front rear end right out before I realized that that's not the way you come down there. Come another half a gear higher and use the brakes once in a while. Everything worked fine, eh? But you learn the hard way.
Just a
Glen
little.
Ogle, yeah, but Glen Ogle was a real learning curve, I think, for everybody, because, like you say, the trucks then, I mean, there was no oil pumps in the transmissions or the rear end, so, because it was so steep, the
Well,
oil
then-
wasn't getting to
No.
the front bearings when you were climbing the hills, and wasn't getting to the back ones when you were going down.
And then it was washboardy too,
And then
besides
it was-
that.
Yeah, I mean, nowadays, they've all got oil pumps in them, so they never run out of oil. And then, like you say, overloading them, because that's what's happened over the years, is as the trucks have gotten better, they've taken liberties, as far as I'm concerned, with the way that they design and build the roads. They just keep getting steeper and steeper.
And you don't go up until winter.
Yeah.
Stay on plastic
Yeah,
summer.
this is just a summer road? Oh, yeah, it'll be white when you use it.
Exactly.
There's another one up the Bladeberry there where Henderson logged. We had to get special permission from the Forest Service to fill the bloody ditches in. There wasn't enough room to make the corners. We had to fill the ditches in so we could get a truck over and bring the trailer over, right?
That was just up opposite the OB campground, right?
Yeah, you can see it from there. You can see it from the main highway if you look up there.
Who crashed up there? Gord Fuse? Is that where he lost his truck?
No, Gord crashed up,
By Donald Summers.
the gravel
Yeah.
pit, right across the way to the campground, you go through the gravel
Yeah,
pit,
up there.
right
That
up
was our
there.
cousin's landing?
No, that was from Henderson.
Henderson?
I think Henderson was logging up there.
Someone fell off a cousin's landing too one time.
Cousin's loader,
Oh, you know, that's exactly what I'm thinking of too.
966 went over the bank.
Yeah, that was how it
Body,
mentioned,
that was,
That
Rick.
was where
Rick
Caribou-
LaFleur.
There wasn't, I looked at that right after it happened. There was wheels here and something else over there. I had never seen a machine come apart like that, eh?
So could you name me some of the names of the logging outfits that you guys drove for?
Hauled from?
Not that you hauled from, but companies like Magnus's
Oh,
that
like-
had trucks and,
Yeah.
you know, some of the trucking
Some of the
companies.
sawmills.
No, just the trucking companies.
Well, the early years, was pretty much the companies owned it, like,
Yeah.
it was Golden Pole, I think, was before Kicking Horse,
Yeah, and then kicking horse.
then Kicking Horse.
But who,
Selkirk
Shimmies,
Spruce.
who did you work for, like
Well,
Vector
that's-
and Miller
that's-
and?
That's what you work
That's who
for.
we worked for.
Was
Selkirk
Kingstead one of
Spruce,
them?
so
Yeah,
Kingstead?
yeah he's in early 60s, I guess he was logging, eh? 50s,
Yeah.
late
Yeah.
50s.
I just remember the name, I never met.
Well,
him.
Tingstead and my dad were contractors. Who else was there?
Jim Reeder.
Oh, yeah, Reeder was contractor.
Bull River,
They come a little after that. There was only about 4 or 5
Paul
contractors.
Folks, and then,
Yeah,
Henderson's about your dad, oh?
yeah, he bought, yeah.
and Garth Benson and.
Rio
They
River.
bought Bull River.
They
Yeah,
bought
that
Bull
was Rio
Real River.
Yeah.
Butch Henderson bought his dad, Harold.
All,
The four brothers.
they all mortgaged their homes to get enough money to
In
make
case
the
you're
down
talking
payment.
Bill and Hub and
Yeah, Bruce.
Chick and Bruce.
Chicken Bruce.
Hub was the loader operator, Chick drove the truck, and old Bruce was the boss. I forget what Bill did. I think he was
He was
captain,
Chad,
if I,
yeah.
yeah.
So more recently, Cecil Dredge, I guess, right? Had a logging show and trucks.
Yeah. Yeah,
Cecil started with one truck for Magnus, and then I don't know if he bought a logging outfit or
well,
just made his own, I guess.
Cecil had an outfit on the coast.
Cecil drove for Magnus for a while,
Then bought one
and
truck.
then bought one truck.
He come from the coast, and he had an outfit down there. And old Gallardi was the minister of highways.
Yeah.
He screwed old Cecil so bad that he lost everything he owned. When he come here, he was flat broke. And Dad sold him the place there at Darnell. He had no money or nothing, but Cecil was honest as the day was long, so if you got money, you make a payment. And that's the way it worked, and then he started building from then. And then because of that, he set my brother up. He got his first truck from old Cecil. And when I come from Briscoe with no job, give me a job, he looked after us. He was good. You take his check to town, you could cash it anywhere. The only thing you didn't want to do was sneak up on him when he was in his pickup, because he'd be asleep. You had to wake him up first before you snuck up. Throw a stick in his pickup or something, make sure he was awake.
John Crease, I guess, owned trucks and logged. Did you, Harold?
Whiskey Jack.
Now there was the
You guys
driver,
didn't log, Harold, when you
John
had trucks?
Crease.
When
Remember,
it was A&H?
right across when,
No, we were at Blue Water.
right across the bridge when you go up to West Columbia, that road that goes straight up the mountain there. Old Chris was driving one of his own trucks up there. He had all 4 chains all on the wheels and everything, and somebody come up with a pickup. And they're bullshitting away, and then he jumps in the truck and he drives away. Oh, forgot to put the chains on, forgot to button them up. They're all laying up there. And he'd already started down the hill, there was no stopping now. I guess he was so scared he couldn't even talk when he got to the bottom, but he made it. He got to the bottom.
Lesson learned.
You can see his tracks, he hit the guardrail on the old bridge with black marks, both sides. Hey John, no answer.
That was the same in on the Blue Road there, when things had first started there, when you bought those 4 trucks from Magnus, see?
Yeah.
Bill Silva was on one of them, and it was that long hill, and you come down there, well, Bill just got to the top of it, and his trailer dynamited it. Well, Irvin thinks that he'd come along with the crew, and, oh, I'll fix it for you. And so, drained the air off the trailer. You could go the way with it.
No brakes at all, but
No brakes at all.
About 2/3 of the way down the hill, that's where he piled up.
that's where old Red Scott started driving truck too, off that Blackwater Ridge.
Yeah.
And Tingstead's trucks, 2 OB61 Max. Well, they didn't need 2 drivers, so he'd drive one, go and dump it, they'd load the other, and they'd go back and switch trucks. And he was driving 2 trucks all one summer. I remember one of them didn't have any floorboards in it for some reason. Old smoke and dirt and dust coming through there.
Almost everybody out there had a name for their truck and a nickname.
Magnus named them,
Yeah?
all of his.
All his trucks were named.
But Junior, he always had a name on his trucks.
Yeah.
Dad's truck was Red Wing.
Yeah.
Mine, the first one I got, Albert had already named it Pete Sakes, so that's why it was Pete Sakes.
Walter Carrick had a name on his truck too.
Fury.
That's
Oh,
the furthest star, the big nose.
oh.
The 71 that
oh,
matched
oh,
your
yeah,
brother's truck.
yeah, no.
There was a name, I can't remember, Sal drove it for a short time before he went to work for you guys.
I remember the truck, but I don't remember the name on it.
It had a name, but I can't remember what it was.
You had names on your trucks though, or on the bug screen anyway, or were they? You
The
remember
first one
them all?
was plain Jane. It had a black stack when I bought it.
Black stuff.
Brand new truck coming out of the shop with a black stack on it.
That's in style
No-
today
no
though.
chrome.
Didn't matter, it was covered with tobacco juice after that.
And I had squint on most of them, I guess.
What about Arkansas?
Yeah.
Well, you didn't work with him unless you had to.
Yeah, I worked with him for a couple of years.
You got a check, but there was never a signature on it or something.
I always got paid.
And you guys had a few trucks. 'Cause
Yeah, we had
you
4
saw one
together.
to John
Yeah.
White. Didn't John buy one from you guys, an A&H truck, or?
And he'd have bought one of Walter's, Arkansas's.
Well, Walter wanted me to go follow him for him. Oh, I don't have a power saw. That's no problem, I got a brand new one right here. I run out of excuses, so I went to work for him for about a week. Finally, Tresses were looking for a catch skinner, so I went to work for Tresses. Never did get paid for the week either.
So Junior was known as Old Black.
He's Uncle Bert,
209.
Bert.
Dutchman, wooden shoes. That's what we always call him, we were told anyway.
This is a nickname.
Yeah.
It was never on my truck.
No,
No.
no, just your
But
nickname.
as a driver, driver's nicknames.
Happy Harold.
Happy Harry is what I heard.
Happy
when I-
Harry.
When I was just up and coming, it was Happy
I renamed
Harry.
him Double Clutch.
Yeah, I'm double clutch.
He's got twice as many clutches as Randy.
Yeah. True story.
What about you, Bill? Do you have something they call you?
I don't remember.
Well,
remember.
not to my face.
Not
Everybody called me Bull all the time.
Bull.
That's right, bull driver.
Bull
that's right.
driver.
Yeah.
I think Junior called you Copper Top all the time.
He started that, yeah.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
he
Junior-
wouldn't let it go.
Junior just about had
He doesn't
everybody.
let
Even let it go?
Give
He
him
would.
a nickname, didn't he?
He doesn't let nothing go.
Nothing go.
No.
No way.
Exactly.
Let things go all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
But there's lots of guys that had nicknames. Dale Fuse was always Luigi or something, right?
Still is.
Yeah,
Because of a runaway? He had in the truck or something?
something like that.
Mark Murray was always Mark Mark.
Still is.
Still is?
Yeah.
I don't think Gary has one, talking about the
No, no.
whiskey jack fleet, or Rod.
Lehman calls Gary something on the radio, he has a
Guffer.
Guffer, that's it.
What?
Guffer.
Guffer.
That come from hockey though, didn't it?
Oh,
I think
maybe,
so.
I don't know.
It
But
did.
Yeah, I
but
think
the other
that
guy
come from
just still
hockey.
call him that name, Guffer,
Yeah.
and I'm like, who's Guffer? And then it clicked one day that that's who it was.
Biggest challenge that you faced driving over the years? What was your biggest challenge?
Paying for the damn truck.
It's the new one every day.
Yeah,
Just about.
Yeah, I'll bet, eh?
That's, yeah, that's true. It
nowadays
is, it's
it's
a new challenge every day.
pollution control and DEF fluid and.
These are new
All that nice,
challenges
all of that
It's a
nice
big
stuff.
challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
before our time.
Yeah, we're lucky there.
Well, there was a winter, we had probably 25 out-of-town trucks in the early 80s out there, that when that fell up in
We
Campbell
all
River.
saw
Sullivan. So that's a pretty good challenge that winter, because we had our radios at the causeway, didn't we have 2 different channels we switched?
Yeah, we switched to
And
Causeway.
if you ever forgot to switch, you're on the other side, and you're
We're
calling
on the wrong
something,
channel.
you gotta hope somebody would catch and go, yo, you forgot to switch, but
I remember,
But that was, that winter, we weren't had anything to do with the safety business that the contractors were wrapped in on at that time. And,
Turkey was safety man.
they went, I think we went
right?
18 gone to the body shop accidents in 3 months
Mm-hmm.
that winter. And I can remember I asked old Bill Henderson there, Granny, to do a little swapping around, because there was 3 guys that they said are gonna be big trouble over here, because there's, like, the one guy was okay as a driver, it just no good yeah, for how busy the road was.
Is that the guy that called every mile?
No, I can't remember, but I know what, I think he was working for Henderson, and Henderson had a truck over on the far side that he could have swapped with him, right, to get him out of harm's way, but he never. And then the other 2 guys, they didn't do anything about him, and within 3 weeks, all 3 of the guys that I asked to get shuffled around, 2 of them turfed and 1 shuffled over to the far side of the lake, they'd all crashed. And 2 of them were by themselves, just basically flew off the road. And luckily nobody got killed. And the other one ran into the old Mark's old blue truck that he drove for Cecil after Whiskey Jack bought it.
Daryl was trying to.
And Daryl, yeah, Daryl was driving it. And he had on them there after he said he was gonna park. And it was after that we got involved with the contractor safety program.
Well, there was so much chatter on the radio, you were lucky if you could even get on it. eh?
Horrible.
And then guys would switch channels and be bullshitting on the wrong channel.
We try and group up and travel in
Yeah.
bunches so that there wasn't so much radio traffic.
Yeah, and the guys didn't like that.
the guy you're talking, one of the guys you were talking about could, well, that error, but he was up here, he shouldn't have even been here, but he thought our mileage signs were speed signs.
Yeah, well, that was the first time I met
That's
him.
right, I remember
And
that.
he,
I found him on
At
the
the
first morning on
the
the
70
70 corner.
70
And he
corner,
wanted me to pull
that's a
down.
right angle corner right at Bush Harbor. He thought that's 70 kilometers, 70 miles an hour, so over the, straight over the.
He said to me, he says, you guys are gonna have to change these signs. There's no way you can take this corner at 70. Really? I'd like to have
He'd
seen
really
the
been going when he
120.
got up the far end.
Yeah, because we were hauling from the 155 or something.
Yeah,
Real was up at the 155.
and well, the one guy crashed on the far end of the rock cut. That's where he went over, that was that, I forget his name though.
That's-
And the one that,
That's Bert's Corner, isn't it, the far end of the rock cut?
Yep.
yeah, same place,
Same
actually.
place Bert went for a nosedive
57 and
there.
that old back, he went over the bank there.
Yeah, that one,
No,
that
not
other
those
one,
days.
the
Wasn't
one that
those
went
days.
off the road
That
at the
was a nice or
70.
something that got you though, wasn't it?
Or the 57, pardon me, you're right. And, but the one that got that 70, the kilometer sign at the harbor was for speed, that's where he went over. And he was from Calgary or something.
Yeah.
But he never
Mount Bruce
lasted.
Somewhere, yeah.
He never lasted 2 or 3
Our road
weeks.
was too fast for him.
Oh, that was a disaster.
Well, I remember we used to come in and no one wanted to leave going back in the afternoon for that second tripway out there because there was so much traffic. And I remember going up by the fuel tank where the Imperial Oil had the
hide,
and kind of sit there and wait till you see someone go by and then you just duck in behind it. And you're kind of shuffling around hiding all over the place. You're not leading one of these lineups. Well, one of these days I got one of these lineups and I didn't want it. And I know Bill Henderson Jr. was in behind me, and I don't know who else. There's probably 3, 4 of them. And so they're on the CB yapping, but if they would shut up and listen for traffic and just do the traffic thing with whoever's leading, that, hey, you know, there's someone coming in a couple of kilometers or whatever, but no, they're visiting back there and assuming the guy in the lead is gonna look after them. So one of these characters is coming that you're talking about, and there's the humps there along the lakes, and I thought, I'll fix you guys. So I just slowed up and got everything lined up that when I go over the hump, I'm clear, but they're gonna be flying along behind me and he's gonna have the road blocked and they're gonna snowbank it. Sure enough, Bill is in the brush so far, I had no one behind me the rest of the way out. It took all of them to get him back on the road, now he can lead.
Yeah,
But it was bad.
it was bad. We were making 2 a day, everybody was tired. By the end of the week after working 16-hour days or 18-hour days.
Yeah, and it was hard to get back out there that second trip with all that traffic.
I remember coming in from Sullivan on a Friday night, so we all had peelers on. Me and Kenny Taylor and probably there were 3 of us anyway. And the race was on all the way in. And just coming up, what the hell, can't remember what mile, it just past where your Sleepy Hollow is, where that hill was. I was just coming up that, and Kenny was ahead of me, and Jimmy Tress was coming with a crew cab. Well, he heard Kenny coming, but I hadn't said a word. I was following Kenny. And Kenny went by, so he pulled back out the road, and I met him right on the brink of that hill. And neither one of us was going to stop, so I just gave her all she had and grabbed the gear, and I was right off the road, stretched my load out 4 feet. My compensators pulled right up, but it managed to make it back on the road before it died. Then we had to get out there, dig all the snow out. Well, then I had no compensator. I had a hell of a time getting to town. I had to undo my trailer reach and let it go back and forth in the trailer to get the load to town.
that wasn't the one at the 118?
Is that what it is there, 118?
Oh, at the top of that little pitch
Yeah,
above.
I was completely off the road and back on it again, never
Yeah,
lost load.
I got pictures of those tracks.
Oh, have you?
The truck's long gone, but the tracks, those are impressive tracks. Because whoever went in there should have still been there to
Well,
this
if I hadn't
day.
been going, if I hadn't been going like a bat out of hell, I would have been, but I was going just fast enough, the truck hit the road again before it powered right out there. That was enough, I was back on the road.
Oh, man. They were deep.
Poor old Jimmy there, his eyes were like this, whole crew cab full of guys there.
So we've named quite a few drivers in this conversation. Is there anybody else before we wrap it up that you would like to remember that may not?
Roger John Snowpack.
Yeah.
You never know which way he was going, you always had to listen to his next mile, because he was going up when he was going down, and you never knew what
He
John.
was confused a lot on the radio, but.
We got stuck way out in the bush one time, and I got self-loading then when Glenn first got his outfit. And we got stuck in on Gold Road. You know, it was like up there when it rained. My only hope of getting home that night, it was Friday, was riding with Roger John. I'd never met the man really face to face, maybe coughed with the Husky. So I walked 4.5 kilometers down to the main road and I got a ride with John. He just got that Husker and had the Detroit in it.
That tan colored one with the red stripes?
That's the one.
Yeah.
But the inside of it was black, unless you rubbed your finger on it. That was tan again, right? Because he smoked so much.
You couldn't even see the dashes in his
You
truck.
couldn't
eh?
see. But I sat there quiet like a church mouse because I didn't know the man. And here's this big hulking dude, and the cigarette was sticking out of his mouth, and the ash was no kidding that long. Just driving along, it never broke. He'd take the top and put his hand on the stick, and it broke. And I looked down, he's got a pile of ashes right around the boot. And it was perfect, just like a volcano head. There's nothing to it. All the way to town, and when I got out, he says it was a pleasure. And I don't think I said 2 words.
His whole dash, though, you couldn't see his gauges because he was
Nothing.
full of ashes like that too.
Never went.
You talk about shift like old Frank Priest, you should ride with John, eh? He was the same
He
way.
had a tough time shifting. Tough time shifting.
Glenn Baldwin was another one that I remember we hauled with him out there on the Cozers quite a bit.
Yeah.
when we were out there. Roger.
That's how I got on a diesel driving truck at Cozers. He was driving the truck and Carl Wilson was driving the other one. He dumped 2 loads on the old 51-mile corner in 2 trips, dumped 2 loads. And he pulled seniority on me. I was running a D8, so he took the D8 and I ended up driving truck. Drove truck out there until the mill burned.
I remember the motor went out of Glenn's truck or something on the, at Paul Creek, and I went out and pulled him in one night.
Yeah.
Drove him in there. I pulled John Snowpeck off the West Columbia once too. He dumped the load on the landing, and I think it must have ran out of oil or something, and they put the load back on, and he went like 20 more K, and then the motor went out of it. They had to take the load off, and I went out and pulled him in.
Way out at the back end there, I think where they're all now. You come around the switchback and there was a straight shot down onto the main road and the bridge. Jay Barlow just started driving a logging truck. I knew it
Thomas
was,
Street.
yeah, I knew it was coming, so I just went across the bridge and I pulled over. Man, he come around and he was going way too fast. Come around that switchback and the trailer went right off the road and then back on the road again, and he was away.
Yeah, where you come down on it, this was Paul Creek, and the other road underneath there.
Yeah, yeah.
You come down, and that trailer went down on the,
Onto the other road.
onto the main road. He never dumped
Didn't even
it.
know.
I think Reeves did that one time up the Closures or summer when Henderson first got the first tri drives way back when.
He drove right out in our landing.
Well, the road just went like that. There was a landing right there, and the trailer just went like that, and it flew right off the road, landed on the landing, and he just kept on going and didn't nothing. The tracks, there was no track on the snow. It was untouched. The trailer just flew, landed, and kept on driving.
He did that.
He should have rolled her.
He did that in Courage when we were there too.
Yeah, right on our landing.
Where was
Yeah,
that?
and then he
did
just
that?
went across our landing and back on the road and straight on.
Up past the ozone.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was up the ozone.
Yeah, I walked up those tracks,
Yeah,
because
it
I
was-
was the first truck out behind him,
Yeah.
and I couldn't believe it. And
There's-
then he said on the radio, he said, I did that on purpose.
No, he didn't.
And I thought, buddy,
No, he was
whatever you
fine.
do, don't spread that around, because I don't think your boss will
Well,
like,
for one
oh, he
thing-
said, never heard a thing. And I stopped down the road there where he came back out onto the road, and I walked up the tracks. And standing in the tire tracks where they started, and looking up to the road,
Where the road was. Yeah.
Six
like
foot,
where he
man.
came off, I could just barely
See the level.
see the level of the road. So it was at least 6 feet high.
I'm
Yeah,
surprised
like
he didn't
that-
break the front
that-
springs.
And there was no tracks, guaranteed there was no tracks for 20 feet.
Yeah, like there was
None.
nothing. The track left, and there was just nothing.
Yeah.
And then it landed.
Absolutely none. And that was a full 7-axle load of logs.
I think he hit that corner a little too hard, and them damn triaxles, you had the Jake into the corners. He tried to turn the corner, it wasn't turning, it went straight ahead.
That's right.
He was just lucky, because our landing was there, lucky nobody was sitting right
There's
there.
more luck than skill
Yeah,
getting across.
and usually we had a deck of wood there too, there was no deck
No,
of
there
wood.
was, that landing was empty.
Oh, it was gone then, but
It
then,
was, yeah, there
You
was,
guys had moved on.
you
already
guys had
further
moved
up.
on, and
Yeah,
there
it
was probably 2-3 feet of
Snow
snow.
on it, yeah.
Brother Sal tells the story when he was just learning. Sal was gonna be here, but he ended up going away, but I think it was working for you guys maybe then, Dale, I'm not sure. But at the old Blue Water Hill, and it was in September, and it was freezing rain. Not something you're ever gonna see nowadays. But it was freezing rain, and they all got to the bottom of the hill, and nobody moved because Ed Zorn was gonna come down. So everybody waited. So they waited about 20 minutes, and Sal said, we're certain he crashed. That was the pause, because nobody heard. And here come Ed, around the corner, barefoot, not a thing on, and I was just going put, 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 and he went by them, and Sal said, everybody's jaws just dropped. And sitting beside him was your dad, and he said, you'll never find a better driver than that because he's deaf. I guess old Ed couldn't hear a thing, so he said if it was locking up or barking, he said he'd never known the difference. But he made it through. So I never forgot that, and one day we're out on the S Road, and we're hauling from Stu Purvis, when he took over. Was that
The
called?
Green Road.
Is that what it was?
The Green Road.
That's the
Uncle
story.
Bert. See, I remember that
And me
day
and
too.
Randy Goddard were on the top, we just got loaded, it was snowing like you can't believe, and we had 2 sets on, we got down to the second switchback, we stopped, and Randy said, we gotta get a skidder. Gotta clean this off. We stopped right at the Y. So Stu said, give me a few minutes, I'll send one down. We're sitting there waiting, we got 2 sets on, and Randy said, we better put one on our trailer, because that last push down to the road, if you lose it, you're down into the lake. So we're chaining up our trailers, and we hear put, 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 and we look up at the switchback, and here comes Uncle Bert with the old blue Husker of Bradford's,
Yeah.
barefoot with bald rock tires. And he comes around, yeah, but around the corner, and I forget who's on the skidder, he looks at us and goes, you boys look pretty silly right about now, don't you?
He said, yeah, but he's deaf.
but you know, another one that did that all the time was old Lethwitz, the old man. He was too damn tired to put the chains on, so he'd go barefoot where everybody else was
And made
chained
it.
up, and he made it.
I've never seen nothing like it. You felt silly, but you just never had that skill.
Matt Ginn was kinda like that too.
Matt Ginn's really good.
Yeah. There's places we went like south loading because we'd always go
Oh,
take
for
the
sure.
right away before loggers would ever get there. And I'd be chaining up and I'd be thinking I'm having problems thinking. And Matt would come down there bare. He'd be like, how is that even
Lehman was
humanly
another one
possible?
that's no slouch, he just has that
Yeah.
touch for pulling and coming down, it was really.
Or you get guys like Keith
Carol's
Woods
really
with
good at
chains
that.
on, he still gets it loose.
I never had enough chain, never had enough wheels to put enough chain on, I could have carried 10 times more. Would have made me more than happy.
Hated tire chains.
That was obvious.
we never would have guessed that.
How
But it's-
long was Clarence Patterson driving around here? That was one name you never mentioned.
Yeah,
He dragged here until he went north.
He was here for a lot of years.
Yeah, he was. Used to drive the wheels off of your truck, but his own, he took pretty good care of it. Yes, I run into him up in, what the hell's the name of it there, Stewart.
Yeah.
He's still living there.
I don't know if he's,
Herb Lurch?
Yeah, he drove for quite a few people, and then he bought his own truck later.
Oh, Lurch, there's another guy that logged that had trucks of his own, eh?
That's right.
He never drove them though, he always had drivers on his
Wayne
trucks.
Bootler drove for him.
Bootler and my
Yeah.
brother drove that
Doug
old yellow one
Sturdiak.
for a long time.
Doug Sturdiak drove for him,
Yeah, Doug drove
Another
them.
name's Zerdiak.
and the old man drove for him for a while.
Tommy Richardson, who did he have his
He
own
had a
truck?
Peterbilt, little blue Peterbilt.
Used to
Yeah.
be up by Dave Dredge's mill, he lived across the road or something?
He wasn't there that long ago. I
No.
don't think.
No,
Wasn't that Patterson lived, right? He lived just past Lehman's place up in the Labor on that old barn looking house.
Yeah, the old
That's where he
barn
lived.
looking log
Right
house.
at the 4 and
Yeah,
Kosher's there, you
that
could
long.
pass two
Okay.
loaded trucks and I met him there. And I don't know what he was doing, he was smoking his pipe, I guess. I come out empty, he was coming loaded. He seen me and drove right off the road, and then he thought it was my fault. There was lots of room there.
That's Tommy?
Tommy, yeah. Oh, he hollered and screamed on the radio.
What about John White?
John White, here for a
He
long
hauled here
time.
too, like.
Yeah, he hauled
12
here
years,
a long
didn't
time.
When a Huxamar's truck run him off the road at the bottom of the Moran, right? No radio contact, that was another one he crashed.
That's right, right in those kind of S corners. And
John was had to go to the wrong side of the road in the ditch and he still got hit.
I just about got old John too on them corners there at the end of the straight stretch. I met him right there, and I had a Harry Himmler load on, and my cheaters had started to bend. He had such a pile of wood on me, and I come around that corner, and there was a great big cedar on the cheaters. My wrapper broke right there, just meeting John. My wrapper broke. I heard it snap and looked in the mirror, and his tail lights were just going by him. That log come down. They would have killed him if he'd have been 1 second different today.
Still holds the record for the largest 5-axle load into Donald, right?
John?
John White?
Yeah.
Back in the day when you were allowed to do that.
Well, we used to, especially if Harry was loading you, had to cut him off at about 44,000 payload because the trucks wouldn't take it. It was too hard in the truck. Oh, he'd just pile her up and tell
Well,
you.
then not shortly after that, Myers got one with aluminum wheels that Leftwich drove, and the wheels just kept breaking and kept breaking. There was so much.
Shiny wheels, that
Yeah.
red and black one. that
That's the
got-
one.
And didn't he take the air ride out of it too? He had an air
The air
ride and
ride.
he got rid of it.
that was, Shiny Wheels was ball seats. They weren't nearly as tough as what
No, not the new ones.
the Hub Pilots are. That's why they had so much trouble with that. But that thing had a set of legs on it. When they were hauling out of Fish River with it, Kerry Woodmere was driving it. And I think he could have put Mike Pittaway to shame. They
There was
come off
another
of
guy.
come off of that summit, off the summit there. Well, Pittaway passed an ambulance there, one of Mackenzie's drivers, passed an ambulance coming down off the summit.
Yeah, the ambulance is going to an accident. Loggers that passes them.
That Whitmer, it was something else.
Two of them went by that little shack they had in the park too, where you bought your tickets. One on each side loaded, racing.
Sounds like Junior and Latini, Tony Latini from Revelstoke. Always raced.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't they race into Donald and one guy was going for the scale and the other guy went right under the trailer loader and beat him onto the scale or
Latini.
something?
That started at the ferry at the cusp.
Who was gonna get it to
I was
Donald
gonna get
first?
to Donald first. Bottle of whiskey and a big fish.
Who did that?
Tony Latini and Junior.
Oh, yeah.
And Junior was in front when he got to the scales. He slowed up because he had her one, and Latini went right through the trailer loader, spun the reach guide right around, and was on the scale first.
When I was low bidding, I met Whitmer out on the bend there, and there wasn't enough room to pass, but we managed to pass. And he got completely stopped, but then when he tried to go again, dumped over the side, eh? And we opened up the cab to get him out of there, He had blue and red lights in there and smoke, like he was, had a couple of them going there, and he was just happy as could be. Truck's upside down in the ditch.
Do you have a favorite memory of your years driving? Is there one time, one moment that sticks out? What was the perfect day driving?
Every day at the end of the day.
Every Friday afternoon.
Every Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon.
That's right, every Friday afternoon.
Okay.
I'll see you Monday.
Well, more like Saturday afternoon, because you still had to work on that damn truck, eh?
Yeah, that's very true.
Well, mine was early on, going down to Weber's shop when Sal drove. That was pretty big. Or Williams' shop. So when Sal first started, he came on with that new haze. Well, no, new haze. It was the old haze.
The old days.
They made her look new.
The old, that old, what was it called? What did they have on the front of it?
Oh, you're right, it had a name too, but it was
Yeah.
green and
Not
black.
Cool Kitten or Cool Cat or.
But Sal drove it in the yard, he was 16 years old. And all of us kids, I remember running out of the house, we were so damn excited because our brother got this big truck driver job. So we all wanted to go down to Williams' shop. And that was always an experience because we would willingly help. I'd get the grease gun, it was just all so fun. But old Jim sat by the fire. Didn't lift a finger all weekend. He sat there and Kenny would order us around. And then going down to Weber's shop, I remember going down and Sal was driving the gray one, or the tan one. That's the one he broke the hub off on Fish River when he went for a ride. And I said, I wanted to grease a truck, and your dad goes, oh, he reaches over like that, and he touches my forehead, and he goes, not you too, he said. This new grease gun,
Away you went.
away we went, yeah.
Well, that's the one that the old Jungle Jim dragged the trailer on, couldn't pull off, landed on slope. He got caught underneath there, and the air off the trailer, run over his own foot.
The old haze?
Yeah,
Was that right?
Was when his truck ran away on him?
yeah, yeah.
Crashed
He was working for Sloan then.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember Kenny, he worked his heart off, because that one truck was supposed to be his. When the guy paid for it,
Irish Angel.
it was on his name, no, that's not part of the deal.
That was the name you had on the front of that truck, Irish
Yeah.
Angel. Or
I remember coming down, forget what the hell it's called, but anyway, up Hope Creek on the way out the bend there. And Kenny took the rear end out of one of them hazes. So he jumped right out and he called for help and taking that rear end out, and he said he just felt like somebody was watching him. And looks around, there's nobody around, looked across the frame of the truck and there's a grizzly watching him right there. So I left the tools right there, got back in the cab and locked both doors. He says,
Yeah, there were lots of
was that
funny
the
stories,
What did we call that? I can't remember. That's where you shut
but
the
lots
doors.
of long hours went with it.
Well, back in the seniority days,
um,
I was never there, of course, I mean, I probably
It was up
wasn't
in
born.
Hope Creek, but I forget what the road was.
Kenny Williams tells a story about Jungle Jim working with Junior. And Junior would always, regardless of where you loaded, Junior would go first. And Jim would get frustrated. And we got back to the shop and he'd vent. A couple of beers later, it got pretty amped up. And so Ken one morning just said enough of that. He said, we're switching. He said, no one's gonna know the difference. The Peterbilts were twins. So nobody would have a clue. So Kenny jumped in Jim's truck and away they went. And he heard Junior call a mile and he was behind. So when I got to the bottom, Ken said, I knew I had no hope in hell of making the hill without chains on. And Junior was throwing a set of singles. But he said, I went by him anyway, as fast as I dare could to make the corner for the hill. And he said, I spun out, but he said, I was in front. So he said, it really didn't much matter. And he got towed up, and he said, Junior got out of the truck and took one look and saw Kenny and got right back in the truck, and that was the end of that. He said it was, Jim got his loading spot after that. But that was after the twin Peterbilts.
yeah.
But Junior, he had more bark than bite though.
Oh,
In
yeah.
a lot of cases. I
Lots
remember when I
of
first
bark.
started
They're
driving,
rusty
he
marks
scared
now.
the shit out of me. There was, oh, Junior
too.
this, Junior that. And scared me until I
Renee
had to ask him a
Gallagher
question
tell you
one
that
day,
too,
so I
yeah.
had him in trouble. And he come and helped me out, just like he was my best friend for 100 years. After that, nicest man on the
Yeah, it was soft dude, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, when I first started driving, Charlie Lindsay and Junior and, oh, there's 4 or 5 of them. And they drank a bottle of whiskey before they went to work, eh? Well, I broke down one time, was over at Cumberland shop, and here all 4 of them were in there. I was 16 years old, but I had to get in there and have a drink with them or I couldn't drive truck. They'd pour me an 8-ounce glass of street booze. Oh, I drank it, I had to drink it. And I finally got out of there and we had our fuel tanks out where the bulk station is there now for Petrocan. I had both doors of the truck open, I'm laying over the seats barfing out the other side. Fuel's running out of the tank and Dad drove by. Got fired again.
We hired tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
And on that, one final story. We're gonna bring it to a stop because we've run out of batteries and space, and we're 3.5 hours into this.
Already,
3.5
I said we
hours.
should go
I
and do
think
this
so.
all night, though.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming out and helping us with this. We have some other fellows that we're going to talk to. Thanks a lot, you guys. It's been entertaining for all of us sitting back here for sure, and I hope you've enjoyed
You
it
got
as well.
pictures of the truck road you want to tell in your bag?